Yo, yo, yo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Heelanhammer. On today's show, we discuss our time at the Portsmouth Pillage event, and we are joined by superstar guest Ben Curry from the Bad Dice podcast as he tells us all about his Blood and Glory event, which myself and Wayne are attending. All this and more on today's Heelanhammer. Hello, everybody. We're here today. We haven't got any news today. It's the end of the month. White Dwarf's out, but to be honest, it's a lot of Space Marines. So we're going to skip past that and get straight into the main topic. Okay, so the main topic of today, the Portsmouth Pillage, which is a local tournament. Myself and Wayne both attended. 2,500 points. Now, Saucy members would have already heard our first-hand recordings that we did over the weekend, but we didn't cover it in massive detail. So that's mainly what today is about. Now, the event's 2,500, as I said. It used the latest South Coast Grand Tournament composition pack, which you can find out online. If you go on the Warhammer Forum, warhammerforum.org.uk, you can find it on there. But generally, you have a pool of choices per army. So Skaven had, 10 choices, and you could pick, most of the good stuff was in there, and you could have some of them. So you could have some real filth, like Wayne will tell you about. He had some really good combos, but then he had a load of concessions in order to get it in. So that was the whole concept of the pack, and it seemed to work well at the South Coast itself. So the organisers, Dan Thomas, who's been on the show before, who was organising the Warhammer side of the event, was used that, and we all got on board. So that was good for us, actually, because we actually got to play in the South Coast pack, which
it was nice to play in the same venue as South Coast GT and just not have anything to do but play. It was great, wasn't it? It was a really relaxing weekend, actually. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was quite funny because the staff are used to seeing us in organiser shirts and everything, and were talking to us, and we were like, yeah, we're just playing, just chilling, wandering around on our own. It was quite good.
Yeah.
And it felt a lot more sort of smaller event because it was. I mean, we have 200 people in there for the South Coast, and there was still over 100 probably, but it was multi-system, wasn't it? You had the 40k, us and Ancients all running in the same hall, less space than we do for the South Coast. But, there's tons of space in there with that many people, with that less amount of people in there. So it was really laid back, spacious, great venue as it always is. And that was really it. So it's a 20-0 scoring system for 5 games. 20-0 being it's 150 point brackets, victory point brackets. So if you win by 151 points, you've won 11 and your opponent's got 9 points. And, a big massacre in your favour is a 20-0 win. So that's where we are with that. Again, you can see that on the pack if you haven't heard of that before. I know quite a few people on Twitter are asking me about that. It's quite often new people listen to the show and don't understand what 20-0 means. So, but you very quickly get accustomed to it if you've been playing tournaments for a while. So that was that. So
I actually kept my sheet. The actual sheet you got with it that scores the 20-0. I kept it in my bag. Obviously the rest of the pack I didn't need, but I kept that because I thought you need it in general just for games. Because if you can just rattle off what the score is, don't you? Once you know the difference. But if you're not used to it, we haven't played so many games, it's quite handy to just have it so you can just refer to it.
Do you know what? I know a couple of the brackets because I'm used to being in them, like the 12-8 bracket and things like that. But actually, I forget what the middle brackets are. Apparently there's some way of doing it. You divide it by 6, I think, and it gives you something.
It's 150 points, isn't it?
Yeah.
150 point increments, yeah.
But yeah, so easiest way is to have your reference sheet, though, as you say. So, and I've got a spreadsheet on my iPad that we use for ETC where you can plug all your scores in. It gives you the result. It's already built into it. So I just use that. So there we go. Technology at its best. So it was a 5-game tournament, which is very odd. And we'll talk about the pros and the cons of that. But back in the day, that's what all the tournaments were.
That was standard, wasn't it? Yeah, everything was 5 games.
I much prefer, now we've got bigger fields, when you're on 64 people plus, you want to be 6 games at least, I think is the mathematical thing to get a winner and things like this. So that really helps, I think. And for me, just especially the 20-0 system, it seems you tend to get a bit of a fairer result. You don't get somebody getting a couple of really good wins of 20 and then someone not being able to catch him. And on 5 games, I knew going into the tournament, if I was going to win, I was going to have to get really big wins in as many games as I could, which I know sounds like quite obvious. Well, if you're going to win the event, you need it. But it's quite often about getting massive wins when you can on the 20-0 system and then just holding if you're not sure in some of the tougher games later in the tournament. But obviously you should try and win them all. So it's got pros and cons. So Wayne, what did you take Skaven wise?
I tried to take something different, which I think I did, because a lot of the top players didn't attend this event. So there was a lot more players who I knew I'd be playing at my level. So I took something that wasn't so. I tried to come up with my own list rather than kind of copying what everyone else was doing, which I have played with and I found extremely dull. The whole Bell list, I just don't like. It does work. It's a great list, but it's just very, very dull game. So what I did, I took a warlord with a fellblade and a shield, and he was in a unit of 28 storm vermin. There was a BSB in there as well with a banner of the Under Empire, which no one ever takes, but was fantastic in 2 games, which we'll get to later on. And then I took a unit Clan Rats, which had a Warlock Engineer in. He had standard kit, he had a Doom Rocket and the Warp Condenser. And then I had a Plague Priest with the Weeping Blade. So I took him for a bit of a giggle. In the practice game, he was really, really good. But as it turned out during the tournament, he was a bit of a damn squid. He was level 2 as well, if I haven't mentioned that. Then I took 2 Warp Lightning Cannons, which was the naughty bit.
Your dirt, as we call it.
That was the dirt. But I thought because of the rest of the list is a lot softer than the regular Skaven list you see, I kind of needed that to balance it out, to give myself a bit of a chance of trying to win games. Took an A-bomb, which for 5 games was useless. It was an absolute waste of time. And then I took 2 units of 6 Rat Ogres, which was just like giving my opponent 500-point head start every game. But they were fun. They were fun. I must admit, they were fun. 2 big blocks of giant rats. So they were kind of 25 giant rats, 4 pack masters and a master molder in each, and 2 25s of slaves. So only the small blocks of slaves. And that was it really. I mean, there's quite a lot of models on the table, and the best thing about the whole weekend was I enjoyed every game. It was. I never felt in any game that I wasn't like part of it. And I think if I'd have taken that list to a more hardcore event, I think I wouldn't have enjoyed it so much. I think I would have been on at the end of at least 3 or 4 Batterons out of the 5. But in the field that was there, it was great because I just felt like I was in. Even the games that I lost, I felt I wasn't out of it.
No.
So it was, so that side of it, I really, really enjoyed. The only downside is it creates this kind of false. You kind of think, the list ain't that bad. If I just tweak it here and there, then you go to a hardcore tournament and you get battered every game, and you suddenly realise actually the list isn't very good at all. But a lot of it comes down to games. You need to get the games in, and I've been trying to play a bit more just lately. So I've basically taken that list for Blood and Glory and I've changed it, haven't I, ever so slightly.
Which is our next tournament.
Yeah, which is our next tournament. But
funny enough, you can hear an interview with Ben Curry just after this, probably, talking when we talk to him about our thoughts. But yeah, so you've learned a lot. We'll talk about what you learned shortly, and to put in your Blood and Glory list. But sorry, carry on. Yeah,
the star of the weekend was the Lord with the Fellblade. He never died. To the way because at the end of each of your turns, you on a roll of 1 or 2, he takes a wound, no armor save, no saves of any kind, and the most he could get is because he was on foot, was a 4-up armor save anyway. It's just the heavy armor and shield. Yeah, because obviously it's 100 points for the Fellblade, so you can't give him any other items. But he never died in any of the games to the Fellblade, which was great.
He's killed quite a bit of stuff. So should we let's talk about your games, because most of it features the Fellblade man, doesn't it? So first up, you played a Dark Elf army, wasn't it?
Yeah, I played a guy, Greg Day. Never played him before, and I don't think he does many tournaments. Really, really nice guy. He had a Dark Elf army, 2 Hydras, 2 Dreadlords, a couple of big blocks of Spearmen, and it was... I was explained obviously what the Fellblade did, because it was a closed list tournament, but because I had to roll for the Fellblade, I kind of said, well, I can't really hide this item from you because I've got to roll it at the end of each of my turns, so I'll tell you what it is. So he knew what it was. But I got about halfway into the game, and the Lord went through both the Hydras and one of the Dreadlords. And it just like it's just like some Jedi Knight flipping around the ranks just with his lightsaber, just
Yoda
taking them out. Yeah, he was fantastic. He was. And he survived the whole game. And I can't remember what the score was off the top of my head. I think it was 17-3 that I won. But he was great. He was brilliant. And in the end he did die, but he died there was 3 Corsairs left in the unit. Yeah. And they killed him.
If memory serves me, that was actually 13-7, I think, that game.
13-7.
Yeah, you did have another big win, but I think that one was 13-7 because loads of stuff was dead either side, wasn't it?
But
you chopped out
brutal.
Loads.
Yeah.
But he seemed like a really nice guy.
He was top. Yeah, he was top guy. He was really, really laid back. Really kind of like a club gamer. That's the way I would describe him. He was just I'd like to play him again. Actually, I'd play him anytime. It was great fun.
But it is quite funny because Dark Elves are a reasonably rare army these days, and you seem to play them every tournament you go to.
Yeah, I always get them. It's usually first game.
Yeah,
I usually get them first game, and that's the first time I've ever beat Dark Elves at a tournament.
Good boy. And it was all down to the fell blade.
It was all down to the fell blade,
so what's that? Anybody knows me knows my mental maths is awful. But let's say it was 600-700 points worth of kit. That surely a Dreadlord and 2 Hydras. You know, the Dreadlord's probably 300
well,
points.
The Hydras, 175 each, aren't they?
Yeah. I'll go for 600. Let's say 600 to be safe. But yeah, that's quite a chunk, isn't it, from your one model that just
he was, he was awesome. But then obviously with the Corsairs, because he's literally a toughness 4 guy with a 4-off armor save with 3 wounds. And I think he'd actually taken a wound to the fell blade, or he'd taken a wound at some point. And then these 3 Corsairs just went, because of the amount of attacks, they just killed him really easily. But most of my opponents didn't really latch on to the fact that because he had a 100-point item, he was easy to kill, and they didn't, not everyone, but most of them didn't bother trying to.
We'll talk about the one guy that did try to kill him in a sec, because that's quite amusing. So, so he was good, and that was a great start to the event. So, second game, what did you play there? Was it the Beastman, or was that later on?
Oh, that was Mark Borland. Was that a second game? Yeah, I think it was the second game. Yeah, it was Mark Borland. At one point, I thought, "Oh, gotcha," and then it all went wrong. Right? It was he had a massive unit of Gore, a smaller unit of Bested Gore, and then this Minotaur unit. I can't remember how many was in it. I think it was like 6 Minotaurs, and then there was a Doom Ball in it with the kitchen sink on him, and he was obviously in this unit for protection, and he strung it out in one line and just ran it at me, and I was thinking, oh, that's just going to chew through everything, because obviously I only had the 25s of slaves, not the 40s, so I thought, it's not going to last long. And that's basically what he did. He held off with the rest of the army, and then a couple of chariots came forward, and the Minotaurs came screaming down the table. And then at one point, I managed to get a flamethrower shot right down the flank of the unit. And I killed 5 Minotaurs.
Because he didn't know there were D3 wounds, did he?
No. It was really funny, because not everyone uses flamethrowers.
Not everybody.
And there was that moment where it's like...
Nobody uses flamethrowers. Yeah.
It was like, he's got that strength 5, yeah? I'd say, yeah, strength 5, yeah. D3 wounds. Sorry?
I got the tournament organizer came over chuckling to me quite early on in my game, and he said, "You never guess what's happened." I was like, "I guess Wayne's just killed 5 Minotaurs with one shot." I was like, "Good boy." You did have some impressive kill counts with random bits of Skaven machinery over the weekend, which is kind of what the Skaven are about, but if you take the silly stuff. You don't get those stories with the my Warp Lightning Condenser Man did this. Yeah, okay, he did probably, but got a consistent basis. But the silly warp fire throws, and you're a nightmare for shooting it 10 inches, aren't you? I need a 10 to get that. Yeah, do it.
Well, we had a game the other night, didn't we? And I did it then. I needed a 10 to hit, so I just
twice.
And I just rolled a 10 because I think, well, if you're going to take them, use them.
It's that thing we were always on about, believe Warhammer, where you just go, it'd be fine.
Absolutely.
So that was good. And I
got a Doom Ball down to 1 wound right at the end of the game.
You had him side both units of Rat Ogres, didn't you?
1 unit in each side. I just threw everything out because I thought, I've lost the game. I just want to kill this Doom Ball. If I kill the Doom Ball, I'm happy. And he just wouldn't die. He just wouldn't die. He had like a 1-up rerollable save. And I did loads of wounds on him. And he kept failing some other saves, but he always made the rerolls. And in the end, he just ate both the Rat Ogre units. Because I think at the end, he had 14 or 15 attacks. Because obviously every combat they win, they get an extra attack, don't they? The Doom Ball does. And I was talking to Mark, and I said, "Is it capped?" And he said, "Well, never. It doesn't say anywhere that it is capped." Like most stat lines are capped to 10, aren't they? Yeah. But apparently it doesn't say that anywhere.
It's
so
odd,
we just carried on stacking
rule,
it up.
Isn't it? So does it overwrite the rule book? So ultimately, no one ever normally gets there to find out, and it doesn't normally matter, does it? So
I think he finished the game. He never actually got to use those attacks, but I think he finished the game with 15 attacks.
So for anybody who doesn't know, this is the rarely seen Minotaur rule, where if you win around a combat that gains an attack, doesn't he? Basically gets like this blood frenzy thing as he goes crazy, which I think is proper cool, but you just don't see it very often. I have played against it round here in Heelanwood Studios when Michael Biggs, who's been on the show before, quite a few years ago probably, used to use him. He used him one game against me, against the Undead, and he just absolutely, he'd go into a ghoul unit and just destroy it in seconds. I'd be like, it's just Ben, it's too good. It's Beastman though. So they give up a lot to get it in, but when it does the biz, the biz, doesn't it? So, but you didn't get him in the end. He had that 1 wound right at the end, and that was that was a big loss to me because instead of just backing off or trying to conserve points, I just threw. There was one moment that really cost me the game, which the A bomb. There was a unit of Furies. Is it Furies or Harpies they use? Harpies. There's a unit of Harpies there, and the A bomb turned, and I had to roll a 6 on 3 dice to get them, to stop them getting my warp cannon, and rolled a 5, 3 dice, and that was the biggest swing in the game because
they came through, killed one of the cannons, and then they were kind of stuck behind me, and the A-bomb didn't do anything for a turn. And it just really affected the game massively, and it just all went wrong. Because literally I had that shot with the warp flying thrower, and I thought, I'm back in here. This is fine. And then the next bit, the next turn, the A-bomb didn't charge in, and it really cost me big. But I mean, fair play to Mark. I mean, it's it's Beastman at the end of the day, and he gave me a good kicking. But it was quite funny because it was literally the unit of Harpies and the Minotaurs, because the rest of it just backed off.
Yeah, I got the whole big, all at the back.
I got the big Doom rocket shot on it and on the big unit Gores, and I killed quite a few of them. And he just backed it off. And at one point, I had my Storm Vermin facing off his Besticle and his Gore unit, and there was a big combat going on behind the Storm Vermin. It was almost like the Storm Vermin and the Lord with the Fellblade were standing in front of what was going on behind him, as if to say, "Don't anyone else join in." When I was in this desperate effort to get rid of this Doom Ball, but it was not to be.
You didn't fancy the Fellblade guy going in, then, or you just never got the chance?
It was the position of the unit. I never got a chance because where he kept killing stuff and then overrun, well, not overrun, because he could only go, like, I think it's D6 they can only go, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was just out of position, and that was really down to me. I should have lined it up better. But I think the problem was I couldn't put him in the combat either, because the Doom Ball always strike first.
Right.
So he would have killed the Failblade guy anyway. He would have just taken him out, no problem.
With his 15 attacks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in that, he could have afforded just, if there wasn't a challenge, he could have just gone, I'll put 5 attacks on the Lord, he would have killed him. So, it was I was never going to do that anyway.
It's interesting, though, when you listen to that game back, because so many people don't play Beastman, you forget so many of the rules. Like, I was thinking, the D6 thing, that's a good point, I forgot about that. But you just don't play them anymore, do you? Yeah. Very rarely. I mean, I've played them, I don't know how many times in 8th, not that many, I wouldn't have said. Probably 5 or 6, and that's not a lot, considering I'm on 325 games of 8th edition. I've played them about 6 times.
Yeah.
So, interesting. So you went down in that one, but you still only went down 14-6, didn't you, though?
Yeah, I was surprised at the score in the end, because I thought it was going to be kind of a sort of 18-2. I got some points out of it, but not many. And when I got 14, I was kind of came away from that thing. Do you know what? I'm actually happy with the 6 points, considering how bad it could have been. And if I'd backed off more with the Rat Ogres, because I just thought, with the amount of attacks going in, I know he's got one re-rollable, but he's only got one wound left. I'm going to kill him. I was like I'm going to kill him, and I didn't.
No, it's a shame. But yeah, I know what you say at that point, because you think as well, if he goes down, that's quite a chunk of points.
Yeah.
So, and it's a reversal, isn't it? Because you then don't lose the Rat Ogre units. So sometimes.
Yeah, I thought it was worth the risk, because I thought even if they go in, they're not. I just thought that initial round, he's going to kill. He's probably going to kill 3 Rat Ogres in one go.
But you're still steadfast.
I'm still steadfast, and I'm going to kill him. I'm going to do that one wound, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, what a shame. So that was unfortunate. What about your next game? Who did you play then? Was it the Orcs and Goblins? I think it was, wasn't it? On that, yeah, it was.
Yeah, in the third game I played Dominic Pemberton. He had a Orc and Goblin army, which was different to list than normally you see. It had a big block of Boar Boys. It had the usual Savage Orc block. A couple of mounted characters, which started off in the Boar Boy block. Level 4 in the Savage Orcs, and a BSB in the Savage Orcs as well. Black Orc Savage Orc, I think it was. Sorry, Black Orc Savage Orc. A Black Orc BSB. And then he had 2 Doom Divers, no Rock Lobbers, which is unusual. But he had 2 Doom Divers and other bits, like 2 single Trolls, stuff like that. And the first 3 turns, he completely and utterly outplayed me. Just better player, knew the rules better, just completely had me. And I was looking at it thinking, and I said, people coming over and going, so how are you getting on? I said, I'm just getting outplayed. It's just all there is to it. And Dominic, it was kind of weird. When you get to that moment in the game where, like, suddenly the guy who's completely in control and his dice go, and he had everything committed. And then he had like 2 solid turns where everything went against him. Yeah, there was no average dice from him at all. It was just silly little things. It just went against him. And then suddenly I kind of just managed to I got all the Savage Orcs. I didn't break the Boar Boys, I don't think, but I killed quite a lot of them. I just mopped up loads of points. Yeah, and I got quite a decent win out of that. And And he was kind of, I felt a bit for Dominic because he was kind of at the end of the game, he was in a bit of shock almost. He kept looking at the table and was like, "How have I lost that?" And he just really, really unlucky. But yeah, it just went. It was just pure luck that. I mean, I had one turn where it was kind of like, right, just hold in it, just grind out, and it'd be fine, and it was. But yeah, the Fellblade guy was the brilliant moment at the end of the game. That what I said about the people weren't going for the Fellblade guy because they just assumed he was like tall, And he said, so how much is the Fellblade worth? I said 100 points. He went, so what arms he got? I went, heavy arm and shield. And he went, yeah, but is that it? And I was, yeah, that's it. That's all. He was like, and he didn't attack him. Yeah. He didn't attack him once because he thought it was a waste of time. And he said, you're telling me I could have killed him like turn 2 or whatever it was. I went, yeah. And he just he was gutted. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you had a big win there, didn't you? 17-3, was it?
17-3, yeah. That was a big win. God, I don't know how. Even sort of looking back on it now, I don't know how. But it was good. It was a good win, that was. So I went come out of the Saturday with more points than I'm used to.
I'm going to say it was a pretty successful day, really.
Yeah, I think it was, what's that work at, 36 points or something.
You're asking me to do mental maths, but yeah, it can't have been too bad, can it?
So
over half for the first day?
I was really happy with that. Really happy. I kind of thought, this is great. And so what about you? Saturday.
Okay, so I suppose I should go into what army I took first. So I decided Empire, just come off the back of ETC, where I didn't have a great time in terms of gameplay, and I thought, I'm not actually taking him to a singles event. I thought I think I've got a reasonable handle on these now. They're an army that, for me, has had the steepest learning curve of any army I've used, which might sound silly. It isn't complicated if you're taking double banishment and a couple of cannons and stuff. But if you want to try and Dan Thomas, I remember having this conversation a lot with Dan Thomas. If you want to, when he was looking to do well on the tournament scene with him, is if you want big wins, they're a hard army to get that real. You need to decide when to go, when to stay, and a lot of it's matchup, but based on knowledge of matchups and things, really. And I thought that I had a bit more knowledge, and I thought, I'll take these. I'll see how I do. I think I can do all right. I think the list is strong. It's just learning to play with it, really. So I turned up with 6 demigryphs in one unit with a banner and a musician, 13 inner circle knights with the +1 leadership banner, and then I had my favourite 2 combos, really, which I quite liked. I decided, look, I want to take something hard, but also want to take it. Like you keep your rat ogres for a reason. Yeah, I liked a leadership 10 bubble, a leadership 10 radius on the general, and I also liked that knight unit with the combat general. I felt like the problem with a lot of armies, I think, is sometimes what you need to do is squeeze out the efficiency of the points you're spending. So for what I wanted to achieve, which was big wins, I needed an army that could not only sit there and force people to come to it, but it needed to be able to counterpunch. So I thought, well, I'll take the knight unit. And the Archlector then it's not just like you've got a guy sitting around just to cast spells or just to provide leadership. He's a dual role then, isn't he? So I had him, and he had a Dawnstone, Sword of Might, I think it was, and a Dragon Helm. So it's a 1-up rerollable. Van Horseman Speculum, so he could swap stats and then add +1 strength with his Sword of Might. So he was really good. And I had the White Cloak on the BSB, which is like a -1 to hit, gives him a 5-up ward and stuff. But it's -1 to hit all models in base contact with him. Yep. So you stand him next to stuff in a 5-wide bus, and it's very hard for people to do a lot of damage to you with 1-up saves when you're -1 to hit.
Yep.
So that combo proved great over the weekend. And backing up, I went with the Life Mage because I thought it was uncomped for the first time in ages, and I thought I used to like Dwellers. I used to like Life in general. I could see it working with a steam tank and 2 big units of Knights. So that was the plan with that one. Supporting level 2 Fire Wizard, so you could at least do something offensive, because as anybody who's used Life will know, with 4 spells, it's very hard sometimes to do anything in a magic phase other than Dwellers. So the level 2 on Fire was great. Big fireballs, medium fireballs, even just the 2d6 fireball or flame cage. Quite a few games I rolled flame cage and the 2d6 fireball, or was able to pick flame cage because I rolled a double or something. And it was brilliant. It did so much damage in so many of the games. So I had him, he had a scroll. And then I had, I decided, a bit like you did, I think the meta's shifted back a bit to 7th edition. You decided to do away with the 40 slaves and have the 25s.
Yeah.
Because the 40s got killed too quick. I did the same with the halberds. I thought, don't get me wrong, 40 halberds with all the right magic support are really good, but it requires a lot of things to make them work. So I thought, I'll go with 20 with command, just because it looks cool. Again, it was that kind of thing. I wanted it because I liked it.
Yeah.
But also it can provide a slightly bigger bunker, and in the right with the leadership 10 next to it and things, it tagged on the corner. It could provide rares. It added like a dual role, but ultimately I ended up using it as chaff in a lot of games and letting people charge it, trying to assassinate whatever's in the front rank or something. Then I had a detachment of 5 archers with them, which is exactly how it sounds. They were just to stand out in front of things, and then a unit of 14 halberds with a musician, which was mainly the bunker for all my 2 mages to sit in. But again, quite often They sat in the big unit. The 14 gods just got chucked forward to die.
Yeah.
So that was those. Then I had the obligatory 2 cannons and a steam tank and a Celestial Hurricaneum, which is by far my most favourite model in the Empire. Because of what it does, it gives everybody around it in 6 inches +1 to hit, and it gives it 1 power dice, which for 130 points sounds expensive, but it is toughness 5. It's it's really, really good. So and that was pretty much the list. I don't think I missed anything else. Yeah, that was pretty much it. It was quite tight and compact when you looked at it on the tray. It didn't look a lot, but it's very hard to get points from, and it was tough because of all the charge ranges on it and the 1-up saves. As you know, it can be quite tough. And with Life Magic, when they were toughness 8 and 7 sometimes, and got regrown and things like that, it was good. I wasn't gonna lie. So straight in, I played a guy named Mike, who's actually from another local Portsmouth club, I believe. I played him once before at the other local tournament we had. He was using Dark Elves last time. He was using, but I was using Skaven. This time round, it was Dark Elves, but of a total different variety. It was the Cold One bus. We had 17 Cold Ones with a Dreadlord and a Battle Standard in there.
Yeah.
Quite a balanced list. It was kind of thing I used to see at the beginning of 8th. It was like a cauldron. I think he had Shadow Magic. Might have been Shadow Magic. And then he had Corsairs, like a big block, and just a couple of other peripheral bits, Hydra, some bits and pieces, but ultimately it was all about the Cold One bus. So I sort of did my usual, deployed in a corner off the centre, and just shot and Dwellers did them for a few turns, and then the Corsairs provided an opportunity for the 6 Demigryphs to go in and sort of kill them. And then I just Dwellers the bus again, I think, and it just, they're only strength 4, so it took quite a few of the models off, and I got this awesome combo charge. Twitter listeners will have seen it. It was bus in one side. I charged the Hurricaneum in the front because I was aware he was probably going to have the pendant on the Lord. So if you imagine, if you've got, I think he had 6 knights left in the Lord. If he puts the Lord on one corner, whatever charges him in that side is going to do nothing.
Yep.
But with what I did, he had to, the turn before he wasn't on the end, and he had to charge something out of the way, so he charged it overhand, so the Lord was in the middle. So I pinned the Lord in place by charging the Hurricaneum into him, and then fleshed to stone the Hurricaneum, so it's toughness 9, and then charged it in both sides in the same turn, so his Lord couldn't move or make way to the sides, and then just deleted the knights with the attacks and things, and the Lord was the only thing left on a stubborn test. He ended up in a challenge with my Van Horseman's guy for the last turn just to make sure he didn't kill anything, and that was a game. That's all he had left with his man with a wound, I think. Pendant. You very rarely take wounds with a pendant, unless you're over a long few rounds. So that was a big 20-0 win. So that was good. I then played a gent from Odd Games, Gareth. Really, really good game. He had the new Internet Filth. It wasn't quite the full-on Internet Filth, but it was two skull cannons, big unit of 8 Beasts and Nurgle, which is just horrendous. If you haven't played, have you played these yet?
No.
Look forward to it. eight Beasts and Nurgle, that 4 wounds each, toughness 5 with a -1 to hit them. Are just incredible, absolutely incredible. Every time I play them, they're just a nightmare. A unit of about 35 or 40 Plague Bearers with a Herald, some other peripheral bits, the Furies and stuff. And basically, my Pegasus Nightman went around destroying the backfield. He killed a Harper unit, a cannon, a horror unit, and the Zinch Herald that was in there by himself just over the rounds. Because I missed him off the list. Yeah, I can't believe I missed him. He was one of the best models. It was a Peg hero with just an enchanted shield and the sword of striking, the +1 to hit sword, and I just charged him around killing things basically. And the +1 to hit, in theory, should have made him quite reliable, but he wasn't. He still just it was the other way around. The 3s to wound was a nightmare on a lot of stuff. He just couldn't roll them. So, but he did really well over the weekend. He was probably one of my main points winning models. So he did that, and it basically come down to I got kind of lucky. I know I've got effectively 3 cannons, and I did get to shoot them for 6 turns in this game, but I turn 2 or 3, he put the beast in front of his Great Unclean One, and I needed an 8 or a 10 to hit it. So first cannon shot 10, and he'd rolled the gift that gives him a 2-up ward save against the first wound suffered.
Yep.
Rolled a 1. 6 wounds, that'll be dead. Took him off, and he was like, oh, and then he decided he had to push it, so he had a flame cage on the Nurgle guys. They got flame caged, and then I thought, I really don't know what to do about the beast. So I thought, do you know what? It's right next to my leadership 10 general. I'm going to put the 6 Demigryphs into them and see what happens. And what happened is repeatedly beat me. I did one to no wounds every turn, I think it was. They just don't do anything. You just can't get through. You're hitting on 4s. Which actually got wrong in that game, but I just didn't do many wounds at all because I had the Hurricaneum in place as well. So I didn't quite. I think we mucked up something along the lines of what I was hitting on, but it didn't really matter. I still did nothing to him.
Yeah.
And then finally, by the time the Nurgle block had gone through the flame cages, I shot 2 cannons down it because it was deep, killed a load there, just chipped away at it. And then the 20 halberdier men, as I said earlier, stood in front of it, did a wound to the BSB, and then another halberdier unit did the other wound to the BSB, killed it. Then finally the knights went inside of it, took it out, overrun into the 8 beasts, and at the end of the game, all was left was this one beast on a wound that I could not kill. And just to show you how hard that was, and that was with my entire bus in the flank of it and the 6 demigriffs in the front, and it still didn't kill it. Oddly, the man of the match, the Peg hero, failed I think a 7 or an 8 or a Swift Strider to go in the back of it, which would have done just enough res to pop that last wound. Didn't make any difference, so it was still a 20-0 win, but I felt like I had the rub of the green in that game. Pretty much everything I did came off.
So he had 2 units of 8.
No, there was an army there with 2 units of 8, mind, but no, he had the Greater Demon instead. Right. So I think the 2 units of 8 one didn't have a Greater Demon, but still horrible. Like, you just can't fight any of it. It's like really horrible. I mean, you've used them, not the beast, but you've used the Nurgle block, haven't you? And it is good.
I've used the beast as well. I've used 4 of them. I haven't used 8 of them. I've used 4 of them, and I found them really good because they're just, whatever's charging in can't really guarantee it's going to roll through it.
No.
So it makes your opponent really think about, does he actually want to take them on? What's going to happen next?
Yeah.
But so
he took it really well good. Actually, though. His general die, and he kind of just giggled because it was funny. It was like, so I was like, so I can only hit it on like an 8 or a 10. Yeah, 10. 1, 6, dead. It's just like, sorry, 600 points. Don't know what to say. So yeah, that was a really good fun game for me. And then game 3 I played. So this game was the game of all games. It was the mighty Ben Diesel, who listeners to the Black Sun podcast will know well. And I'd say one of my favourite opponents because he really does not care. He expects, it doesn't matter what you say to him, how the game goes, he just don't care. He just carries on playing the way he plays. And I really like that. When you know, he doesn't really stress about dice, but he also rolls insanely well on things and doesn't care. It's just like he's normal to him. He's like, yeah, well, that's how it goes, isn't it? It's just I can't describe it. It's just really, really fun to play against. So, and I was abusing him the whole game, and he was taking it well. It's a bit like when you and me play, or when I play with Brian, and that we have a bit of banter, and I was just hammering him the whole game, and he didn't really care. He was just like, yeah, whatever, I'm winning. So he literally, I'd never seen anyone do it before. Now, I used to be a gamer on the tournament scene called Mitch, was his surname, and we used to have this thing about Mitching it, we used to call it, where you deploy on the 12-inch line.
Push it all forward.
You push it all forward, and I played him a few times, and he did that to me. And but I'd never seen anybody do it properly since then, so that's many years ago. And Ben did it. He lined his whole Warriors army up. So he had a Throg with 11 trolls, the Demon Prince level 4 Death with all the toys, 2 units of Crushers, and just chariots, and that was pretty much it. And a Demonic Herald BSB on a steed, and he deployed it all on the 12-inch line, literally put his tape measure down and pushed the whole lot forward. So turn 1, I had a steam tank going into one of the Crusher units and like a load of stuff. It was just I was kind of like, I didn't get it. He just literally didn't care. He just pushed it all forward, and it turned out to be an awesome game. We had loads of combat, and it come down to this BSB. This demonic BSB charged my demigriffs on the board edge. There's obviously 6 of them, so I'm steadfast a lot. I had them at toughness 8 at points and all this, and his BSB wouldn't die. It got stupid in the end. He passed something like 8 5-ups, I think it was, and 7 4-ups in a row to keep his last wound alive. And then, as a result, finally got Throg on the end. Beat me by 2 or something, by 3. So I was on 7 with a reroll to hold. Failed, and he ran them all down with his last wound. And it meant that the BSB was then in place to stop the 2 Jugger units that had lost that needed a 4, to be able to use his reroll to hold on a 4, both units. I was just like, this is it was a massive swing. I mean, it was the Demigriff unit. You think the BSB was worth like 300 points. He got the Demigriff unit, and then saved the Jugger units. So, just massive. And in the end, but he was cool. He was just like, yeah, well, that's how it goes, isn't it? Like, he just expected it. He played for it, whatever. It was really, really good. And the best moment of the game, really, apart from that, which, was more frustrating than fun, but it was a funny story because there's loads of people coming watching the game at this point, and as the story gets retold, everybody comes up and goes, yeah, well, it's Ben Diesel, so he rolls, isn't it? It's like it was completely average.
Meant to be,
yeah, well, of course. And the best bit was he finally got Frog in the side of my bus. So what people were coming along, I could hear him in my ear saying, oh, Dan's getting hammered here, and I'm chuckling to myself because I know what I've got left on the table. Although I'm bad at mental maths, I have an idea how much my own army's worth.
Yep.
And I've got like both my wizards in corners that are just sitting on their own on the board edges. And I've got about 1,000 points tied up in 4 models somewhere else. And the frog goes in the side of my bus in this ongoing combat, and I challenge him. Van Horseman Spectral, 2 rounds, you're dead. Killed him with the Arch Lecter, took him 1-on-1, took the breath weapon to the face as well, but he was toughness loads, so he didn't kill me. And then got my life magic off in the next round and got my wounds back and stuff. So it was really cool. It was another showing of why life was good in that game. But yeah, again, really just really great game. I really enjoyed playing Ben, and it ended up being a 10-all in the end. People were like, how did you get 10 out of that? I was like, look, and I just scooped my literal collection of 6 models that were worth about 1,000 points. Went, that's how they're all still alive. So yeah, that was really good. Just disappointing not to win, because I felt like I didn't really do too much wrong. But I also find Empire versus Warriors is very dicey. Like, do I kill the Demon Prince early, which I did with a cannon, obviously. And then it's a very dicey in terms of, like, does he get his charges in when he goes in? Does he break when he should? And all this kind of stuff. It's really just a horrible game for either player, because he's got the chance of going over the top of me, and I've got the chance of ending his game in 2 turns. Like, I had one where my bus needed a 7 to charge the side of his Skullcrusher unit. Didn't get it. If I got that, a different game. You know, there's like lots of little dice rolls. But he had it the other way. He had Frog and his trolls earlier could have got into the Demigriffs and failed their charge, although it was quite long. He'd done several other ones which were longer and didn't get it. So yeah, really odd game, that matchup, but really cool. And again, I'd play Ben anytime. I think I gave him my best sports in the end. I could have given it to any of my opponents, but it's just the way he was just like, yeah, you know, what can you say? It was a really, really good game. So yeah, enjoyed that one. And that was my day 1 over. So I think I was on 50 points out of the 60, which was a reasonable score. So I was happy with that. I was 2 points behind the leader, which was Dom Hook from the Black Sun. I'm sure when they do their show, they'll tell their story of how they got there. And that was that really. So I was pleased with the performance of the army. Good to finish on day 1, and you'd had a good day 1 as well. So
yeah. I mean, you was on 50 points.
Yeah, 50. Yeah,
and I was on 36. So it was good all round.
And I tell you what, happy. At some 1 dayers, that's enough to. Sorry, at some 2 day 5 gamers, that's enough to really just be storming ahead. I mean, I think if you look at Clash of Swords, which happened the weekend after, Russville won the tournament with like quite a margin, and was on didn't nowhere near the kind of points that a lot of people finished on in the 5 gamer. There was a lot of people winning 20-0 basically. It was really, really tight. So I think there was a bit of a disparity in experience in the field, and on a 5 game tournament, if you did have a good draw, you could obviously potentially just smash people one after the other. And it's kind of what happened in day 2 as we're here. So Wayne, your day 2, what happened?
I played Simon Hyatt.
Oh yeah, from the club.
Yeah, from the club.
Simon of Hoeth.
Simon of Hoeth. Yeah, and he texted me actually, or he tweeted me. I can't remember which, because he went out for a curry with lads, and I went home to see the wife. And he texted me saying, you know, he was giving me some smack talk.
Yeah, getting in bed early for your game face.
Yeah, I said, don't worry, I'm just going to fellblade your Frostfiend is what I said. But on both games, the Banner of the Under Empire was great. Right? Obviously, I'll explain why. Against Simon, I lost the game against Simon. But there was a moment right at the end of the game. What I should have done, I should have just got in his face really, really early on. I should have just pushed it all forward and just not worried about too much, because he had a unit with the Banner of the World Dragon, and it was in a big block of spearmen, and then he had the Phoenix Guard next to them. So I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, do I play a bit defensive there and kind of chip away and blah, blah, blah? And that's what I decided to do, which was wrong, because his magic was way better. Way better. Yeah.
We talk about the High Elves in a sec, but carry on.
Yeah, the magic is just, so that, and because I'd set up and decided what I was doing, it was really hard to change what I was doing as the game progressed. But it really, I was losing by quite a bit, and then there was this moment where the Frost Phoenix decided to just sit in front of my Lord's unit. Now the Frost Phoenix is going first, so he's thinking, right, if I charge in, Frost Phoenix is going to kill my Lord before I get a chance to kill him. And I was thinking, I need some points here. Now, do I just go down in a blaze of glory, or do I just go for it and get some points? And I thought, I'm just going to go for it. And I'd completely forgotten about the Banner of the Under Empire, because I hadn't really needed it up to this point. So I charge in, we get to that combat, and then suddenly remembered. And I went, hang about, before we do anything, start the combat, Banner of the Under Empire, 2d6 strength 2 hits. And he's like, Okay, and it was only on a wound. The frost wound was only on a wound, so he was kind of willing to kill my lord to let it go, and it killed him. It killed the frost phoenix.
I remember that because I was standing behind you just as you did it because I'd finished quite quick, and you're like, yes.
So I managed to claw a few points back there. But yeah, I mean, I played Simon twice in tournaments now, and he's beat me both times. And both times, next time I'm going to be all out aggressive. I need to just get really in his face and play aggressive. I'm trying to think what I lost that by. It was quite a bit. I think it was, I'm not sure, it might be 14-6. Maybe. I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it was a loss. It was it was a substantial loss. A great game though. Always have a great game against Simon. It was really good.
And it was actually a fair spectacle as well. I know Dan, the tournament organizer, said about it, but Simon's army's just really good. It's come on really nicely.
Yeah, it was in the nominations for painting.
Yeah.
So
which we'll get on to later. And you, obviously, your army's great, and you both had your scenery on the table, and it just looked really good to look at, didn't it? As a spectacle.
Yeah, because we took our scenery because it was the first game of the day on the Sunday. Everyone got their own scenery again and put it on their table. So it was kind of like how you hope games are going to look.
Yeah,
and it was really I enjoyed every part of it, the way it looked, the way it played. It was great. I should have just got more on his face early on and tried to pick out little points. At one point, I skit leaped a warlock out, and there was a unit of reavers and a chariot, and he was kind of, every time I had my movement, I was kind of trying to dance between the two, and he got me in the end. He just shot me, but he had a sort of couple of turns where he was doing river dance around him.
River dance, yeah.
but no, it was good fun game as always. And then on my last game, so I played Mike Crossley on the last game, and he had an Empire army which had 3 units of 4 demigryphs. He had a big inner circle night bus and a smaller night unit, Hurricaneum, level 4, which was in a unit of handgunners, I think. What else did he have?
Lots of one-up saves.
Yeah, I love one-up saves. And I was just looking at this army and I'm thinking, oh, please, I need first turn. I didn't get it. I don't think I got first turn actually the whole tournament.
It's not that much of a surprise with the amount of drops you got, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I got a high dice roll the whole weekend. But he zerged it all forward. He mitched it, got right in my face, and I'm looking at it. So this going to go in 2 turns. I'm just going to get battered here. And then the Fellblade Lord just decided that he was like, no, this is fine, lads. This is all right. I can do this. So he got stuck in. He came in with loads of units. My giant rats were fantastic in this game because they managed to hold stuff up. And they took on one of the demigryph units, and they had a combat for about 2-3 rounds. And they just, that was going to and fro. And they managed to hold in there because of the steadfast. And then my lord got into the side of his big cavalry bus, and he was working his way through knights. But the way they were, it was the part of my storm vermin unit was kind of sticking out the back, so there was some frontage of that unit showing. So Mike decided to charge 4 demigryphs in. So he charges the 4 demigryphs in, and I'm thinking, with the sole intention of killing my lord. So I'm kind of looking, I'm thinking, he ain't going to be able to kill 4 demigryphs. But he didn't need to, because I think one of them had taken a wound. The Banner of the Under Empire did, I think it was 1 or 2 wounds. It's only strength 2, and he still gets his armor save, but he rolled a couple of ones, or he rolled a 1. And then the Fellblade Lord was 4 hits, 4 wounds, boom, take him off. He was awesome. He just literally the whole unit went. The whole unit went the turn they charged in.
Were you
it was
just
amazing.
Like, I could just see your face. You're like, yeah, one-up saves. Yeah,
take that.
Yeah. Not in that necessarily that language, but yeah.
It was, it was. Oh, it was just brilliant. I mean, Mike was just, I kind of couldn't really understand why he was doing it, but I think he just wanted to kill the Lord, and he thought if he does,
he was one of the only people that knew that he could go in and try and kill it.
Yeah. So, but he was just, because I could have fluffed it. I've done it before. I mean, the amount of times when I've taken chieftains and they're hitting on 3s, and I've rolled like 1 hit or no hits. But my lord that weekend with the 4 attacks, he was just, he was good. He was always hitting at least 3 times. In that game, he absolutely sort of just ripped him apart. And then there was there's one little thing. I'm sure loads of people do this all the time, right? But I was actually quite chuffed with myself for doing it. There was a bit where there was a wizard. There was a level 4 or a level 2 or whatever he was. He was in the front rank of this knight unit, and I wanted to fight him, but my lord was kind of pinned where he was. I didn't want to move across because he had another character there, and I thought, if the other character could kill me before I kill him, so I kind of wanted to stay where I was. So I issued a challenge, and he said, "I'll decline it." So I'm like, right, okay. So then his wizard moved into the back rank. So because I was in his flank, the wizard moves to the back rank, and now he's touching my Fellblade Lord.
Oh, right.
So then, but the BSB killed him.
He shouldn't be able to do that, but doesn't matter. Because he can only decline if he can't get into a place where he can't. He has to not be being hit, basically. So, but
literally, there was one model in the back. There was one model in the back rank.
Oh, no, I suppose he could, because he could move. You could technically kill one, but I can't see how you could have done it before your lord struck. But I don't know. But it's a good story anyway.
Yeah.
It might just.
I can't remember if he did it, but he did. Yeah, he had to, because in the rules, then it says you have to move to the back rank.
Well, you have to move into a place where you can't fight, or can't get hit, basically. Otherwise, you can't decline.
But if you're the only model in that rank, you'd still have to be in base contact, don't you? Or not?
No. If the way it could work, I suppose, is you could technically say you had one unit in the front, one unit in the flank, and you've got a row of 5 knights, a row of 5 knights, and the third rank has got 1 knight, and the wizard declines. He can technically, at that point, be in a safe place. However, depending on initiative steps, you could kill that knight.
What happens to the gap that is left?
Well, you fight across it. It's irrelevant.
So this just stays as a gap?
Yeah, it just stays as a gap, but you'd still fight across it. So that could happen, but your lord should have had a higher initiative than anything else in your combat to not be able to place it, but it doesn't matter. Whatever happened, you still killed it. So neither of you knew, so it didn't make any difference. I find that actually we were talking about this with Dan Thomas, a tournament organizer, after, because it's the first time he's organised a tournament. He said, "What do you do if you see stuff that goes wrong in games?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, example, I was playing in my last game, which we'll talk about in a bit, and I didn't roll a couple of attacks that I had, which actually I do all the time.
Yeah.
But my opponent did it in another combat, and he'd seen it both times, and he didn't say anything. And he was like, should we interfere? Should we not? And I said, do you know what? If both players haven't done it, no, just let it go. It doesn't. Yeah. And it's exactly that. Both of you were happy to play it that way, completely off of your knowledge that, it was like.
Well, I just thought that's what, because
what's the damage? There isn't really.
I mean, it must have been when I went to the club on Thursday, we were talking about it, and someone there said, no, he has to be in a position where you just can't fight at all.
Yeah, that's right.
He has to be away for it. And I was like, but the way it was set up, I'm trying to remember how it was. But it was kind of I don't know if the Banner of the Under Empire killed the one guy at the back.
Yeah, see, depending when that happens,
because obviously that says start of combat phase, but then you think what's first? That'll challenges.
But you might be able to pick. But I don't know, it might be right at the start. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. It happens.
The other quirky one we had, which I spoke to you, didn't I, at a tournament about, was when I was playing Simon, he charged my Warp Flamethrower. So I said, right, I'm standing fire. But he misfired and he blew up. Yeah. So then it was like, well, what happens now? Is it a failed charge? Does it redirect? Does it, because obviously what he's charging is no longer there. And then we kind of thought, well, the reaction was standing fire. So you haven't
got the option to redirect.
You've got to carry on. And that's why we did it. But it was one of them weird ones. We think that might be the only time that situations arise.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often, but I think you're right. It would come into, I think it's unusual situations where you can't contact the charger now for whatever reason, or that's pretty much what it says. So yeah, you fail. It wasn't a fleece. You can't redirect, but you can't make contact because it's not there. So you fail. Simple as that. But yeah, interesting. So yeah, a few things popped up from those games. So that last game, what was the end result?
That was a decent win. That was
18-2 or so.
18-2. Yeah, it was big. Yeah, it was big. I mean, literally, the Fellblade Lord just killed the world. Basically, he was awesome.
So it was 3 big wins and 2 reasonably hefty losses, but I think you're right. There might have been 4 or 5 points against the Simon game, so that's probably the best you've done in it for a while.
Yeah, I mean,
apart from Beast Ammo when you were using the net list.
Yeah, I didn't. I'd say that. I didn't lose a game.
No,
I didn't lose a game there, but it was boring. It is boring. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know some people can really kind of in that mindset of when they're playing and they're sort of. They don't find it boring because it's all about the result.
Yeah.
If they get the result that they want, then that's the enjoyment. That's what they're looking for. And I do kind of get that. That's what the hardcore players go for. And you've got to have a certain mentality where you can see it through. You can kind of stick to the game plan and just really concentrate on it and see it through. And it might be a really dull game, but they don't see it that way. They just see it as it's about.
Well, the fun for them is, and I've done because I do it. I get this. The fun is executing your plan and knowing that you've played that spot on and got it right and maximise your points from doing it.
Yeah.
But as you say, interactively, two-way, it's not fun, is it? Because you're just taking shots on the face constantly. So, but yeah.
And the hardest bit I find with playing like that is I get bored.
Yeah.
So I tend to sort of I get to a point where I'm thinking, do you know what, I've had 3 turns of this, I'm not really enjoying it. And then I'll start, playing my normal game, and then obviously that's when I start making mistakes and losing.
Yeah, so when you start committing stuff.
Yeah, I start committing stuff, yeah.
You'd be a nightmare playing vampires, right, I reckon, because you get a couple of good combats at the beginning, you're feeling pumped, and then you put that vampire lord into the wrong one, and it's done, 20-0, unlucky. And to be fair, that is a big problem with vampires. I've done it plenty of times trying to play them. So, but yeah, it's all good fun. So yeah, you ended up, so you must have been fairly happy with that in the end.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I enjoyed all 5 games. I had, I never felt I was out of any of the games as such. I mean, I kind of knew I was against Mark, at one point, but then it was kind of like, I'm just going to claw some points back by killing this Doom Ball, which never happened. So, I ended up giving him more points than actually gaining any. But I enjoyed all 5 games, and I can't remember last tournament. No, I genuinely enjoyed all of my games and the list I was using, because normally I come away from it and I go, I didn't have enough practice games before the tournament. The list I took was completely wrong, and I'm kind of bemoaning it a bit. But this weekend I didn't. I just I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of changes that could have been made to that list, but I really enjoyed using it. It was really good fun.
Good, and we're talking a second about what you've done, what you're thinking of doing for Blood and Glory, and the other side of the event, which was the painting. So we'll finish up the gaming first. So where did you finish?
I finished, I can't remember.
19th, wasn't it?
Was it 19th?
I believe it was.
Out of 40?
Out of 50.
Out of 50?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And it was about 19 out of 50, wasn't it? Or something
oh, right, okay.
I think.
Yeah.
Something like that.
No, I think you're right. I think it was 19th, yeah.
Yeah, the results are still in my car, funny enough. But yeah, I think it was about 19, I'm sure. Listeners of the Saucy Show would have heard us firsthand because we had the results.
Yeah, we were talking about,
but it was still a reasonable finish, as I remember, so it was good. So my last 2 games, I played the man himself, the internet legend that is Matt Saul, who doesn't like to be called a nice guy, but is actually a nice guy. And I always enjoy playing Matt because he just abuses you throughout the game and stuff. And I kind of like that kind of banter, so it's good. He was not happy about the fact I had dwellers. Not happy at all. He was like, who wrote in the comp pack that you could take dwellers? Oh, it was you, wasn't it? And, having a bit of pop about that, which is a fair comment. Like the time that I took away 13th and then turned up to the next tournament with a Skaven army, right? It was just unfortunate timing. That's what I was using. And this was the same. So I turned up and, I took dwellers. At the minute I rolled it, he was just like, this is going to be rubbish. But he did all the right things. He split most of his characters up. He still had, 2 in one unit, 2 in the other, but you're going to do that, aren't you? And Dwellers went off a couple of times. He passed all the tests he needed on the characters, but it half the units to a point where they didn't make any difference. And then it was just combat. So it was actually the game that was the most combat orientated game, bar the Warrior one, really. He had 3 lots. It was an Empire off. So he had 3 lots of small demigriff units. I just had the one big one. He had a Hurricane or an ice cream cart, as he called it, and I had an ice cream cart as well. He had 2 big blocks of Halberdiers. I had the Knights. And he had Shadow Magic and Heavens, which is a really good combo, actually. And I was really concerned about committing. And Empire aren't renowned anymore for killing the hordes. But oddly enough, Dwellers plugs that hole. You suddenly literally half the unit in one spell. So I sat back. And it gave me a 10 charge on one of the flank demigriff units, and I took it because there was no downside to it. Got in, and he was lucky to hold. He held on a 4 or something away from the general.
Yeah. Debuff
me, but then he should have probably broken ran me down with the debuffs. And I held on a shaky test, but then I killed him. So the luck played itself out, but that put me in a really good position. The 6 demigriffs ended up sweeping across. But again, the Peg hero was the winner. He went in, and Matt had a sneaky trick. It was quite clever. He had Van Horseman Spectulum on the level 2 mage, not on any of his combat characters.
Yep.
So he Spectulumed the guy, but he only did a wound. Got to his magic phase, and he rolled the 8/9 miscast and killed the Spectrum guy that was in the challenge with the every wizard takes a strength hit. So died, and then I was standing next to his level 4 and kicked him in the head. So that was quite good fun. And but just in time, I think he did get a Mind Razor off on my bus, but I had Flesh to Stone on, so it didn't do anywhere near the damage.
Countered each other.
Yeah, but he didn't have that many attacks. He had 2 halberdiers and 2 characters or something at that point. So yeah, it was. But the one turn before he had the chance, he went into the steam tank with a full unit of 40, and I outdiced him. It's dice on dice, and I outdiced him. And that was his chance. I think if he got that, we might have had a chance to get back in the game because everything beforehand had gone against him. Like I got first turn, killed one of the cannons. I had a lot of stuff that stacked in my favour. So it was unfortunate in the end. That was a 20-0 win. Matt sort of conceded because there was hardly anything left, and we didn't play the last couple of turns, but it was inevitable at that point. I don't think he could get anything back. But good game because I wasn't sure how, in the Empire offs. I've been really bad in the ETC.
Yeah, I remember you saying on a Sunday morning that you weren't confident about it, wasn't you? You wasn't, because you knew because of the result with Ben, the 10-0, you were pretty sure he was going to get some big wins, and you had to chase him, didn't you? So you weren't all that confident about the Empire.
No, I said to Matt, I said there was a couple of times the charges come up, and I said this to a couple of opponents. My whole thing at the weekend was, if I'm going to win 20-0, I've got to go. If I'm going to win the event, I've got to go in at some point and try and win big. And I did it with Matt. I knew he had the chance of Mind Razor, and he did get it, but I was lucky because I got my buff off.
Yeah.
But there was a chance that could have died. Still wouldn't have lost the game, but it wouldn't have been 20. But so it's worth the risk at that point because it was like, well, if I give up winning 20 and only win 16, doesn't matter. I still at least I knew I went for the win because I knew with that kind of net listy Warriors army that Diesel was running and some of the experience levels of players, I was convinced he was just going to run over people, and it's basically what he did. So yeah, that was a good win. Put me on table 1 in the last game. I was leading the event, but I drew the high elf list, and it was the one list I didn't want to draw. Anything else that was up there, I was confident of beating. The high elf list, I've got a shocking record against high elves at the moment, and I've only played them with Empire, but every time they've just chipped away at me enough that I can't beat them, and they beat me. And the Frost Phoenixes are normally part of that. But I thought this time I got 2 cannons, I got dwellers, and the list was 7 fast cav units, 2 bolt throwers, and everything else in the White Lions with 2 Frost Phoenixes. And it was the first time I played. It was Sammy Michael. First time I played him, heard the name and stuff, kicking around the tournament scene. And I thought, it was good to put the name to the face. And we had a really good game, actually. It was quite a good tactical game. I decided early I was going to dwellers him because the only way I could deal with the White Lions. And then when they were halved, if I got one decent one off, I was just going to go in. And even if I traded the Demigriff unit, the Demigriffs go in, die in 2 rounds maybe, but he comes out with 4 men and then I kill them, then that's the trade I've got to do to win. But what happened was on the 2 turns, we had a discussion about club dice, which is quite funny because you and me both aren't fans of club dice, but I also accept, like you do, that people use them and you just get on and play. But he asked me my opinion, I told him, and he said, no, I won't use them. He put them aside in one pile. And just out of habit, as you do, you pick your own dice up, don't you? And we had these couple of magic phases, and he was rolling bad dice ones of all the dice to be rolling at Heelanhammer. And so he picked these 3 up and he went wild form, and I had 7 dice in a scroll at this point because I channeled double 6 wild form on the unit. So when I did dwellism, it did nothing, and then did exactly the same thing the turn after. So on 2 critical turns, I couldn't dwellism. The dwellers went in eventually late and got some characters and did a load of damage to the unit, but at that point I'd already scrambled. I was gone trying to scramble things out into the corners because I thought I'm not going to get any points here. And early on I had a lot of misfires on the cannons, and I didn't touch a Frost Phoenix, and basically we talked about it after the game, and I think Sammy could have beaten me. It just come down to did he put the Frost Phoenix, he had a chance to put the Frost Phoenixes into the tank, both of them, and he rolled that one where they get +1 strength. So there was a chance he could kill it and then come free. But with life magic and things, I mean, I wasn't even concentrating my life on it. I was trying to dwellers, but I could have concentrated my life phase into trying to save it. And in the end, I rolled well on my armors, and he got stuck there. And that's probably what cost him the win. But it ended up being 10-0 in the end, which after the way the game went, I was kind of all right with 10-0. But I also felt like if I play it again, I could beat it. But he had a bit of bad luck early, and I had a bit of bad luck early, and so you never know if you played it again how that would happen. But it was good. It was a good game. It was really kind of tactical. It was certainly the one I had to think the hardest about. Even when the Warriors were running at me, I didn't have to think about it because they were in front of me. The choices were obvious, but in this game, the choices weren't obvious. There was a lot of permutations of where he could put the flyers, and I had a long movement phase of trying to move around and avoid things and stuff. And it was really enjoyable. So I always like those kind of games when you've got to actually think about what you're doing. And with the Empire, because you haven't got that many units, you can afford to take a 20-minute movement phase and still easily finish the game. So which you can't do with like Lizardmen, because you end up doing that 4 turns in a row. It's too long. But with something like that, you can just say, as I said to Sammy, I said, look, it's going to be my longest phase. Just hold on. It is going to be a long one, but I just need to get this right. And once you got it right, you're free to play the game. So But yeah, good game. Draw, and that meant that Ben Diesel leapfrogged me for the win by a point and won the tournament. I came second, and Sammy came third. So yeah, pleased for second, but kind of disappointed not to win, especially as I thought in the head-to-head with Diesel, I kind of was a bit unlucky. But when I look back over the game as a whole, I think where I lost the tournament was in the high-off game. I think I could have played a lot better. I could have taken some. It was the one game where I didn't stick to my philosophy and try and go for the win.
Yeah, I
was trying to get an 11-12.
You were trying not to lose.
Yeah, because I knew that I'd still beat Sammy. It relied on Ben. Ben needed 20 to beat me. And he got 20 sitting next to me, so it was unfortunate. I looked over and had the dwellers gone off a turn earlier, I think I would have been okay. I would have committed, but I had this turn where I had to make a decision of, is the dwellers going to go off? And I went, probably not. So what I did was I did that starburst thing where you bail all your characters out. So my night bus and my two guys on horses and my foot guys flew in, just all went into another unit out of arc of the White Lions, and the knights sort of swift reformed and turned to face the board edge. But then the dwellers went off, and I wasn't facing the unit, so that was the risk I took. And so the actual time I could kill it, I wasn't facing it. So that's really where the tournament went astray. You know, you can say, oh, it was a shame someone else got 20 next to you on what I thought was an easier draw, but that's the thing with 5 game tournaments. You just got to play it, and it was in my hands if I'd played that game differently. So, but the High Elves, I still think they're solid. They're not lighting the world up, but I think in played rightly, they're still a good list.
Yeah.
So fair play to Sammy. He played that quite well. He played it tight, and the only real mistakes he made, I think, was trying to kill the steam tank. I think if he hadn't, he'd have beaten me. But yeah, it was good. So I hope to play him again and have another game. So that was the event on the gaming tables. As I say, congratulations to Ben Diesel. He's such a great opponent. I was glad in that sense to see him win. There's a little bit of controversy over how hard the painted scores were applied, because Dan canvassed opinion and decided not, because it was a laid-back tournament, he didn't impose any penalties for anything really. And I was okay with that. It was totally fine. I was one of the people he asked, and I said, and actually the words came out of my mouth, if Ben beats me because he hasn't taken a painted score, I'm fine with that, and I was fine with that. He, it's decided on the tables, which actually is what most people argue for. And then there was 3 or 4 people who weren't at the event moaning about it, and it's like, well, you kind of weren't there, so why does it matter? It doesn't. I mean, were you impacted by that at all or not?
I don't think so. No. There was a couple of things that I wasn't overly happy with to look at, because they were kind of just there was a couple of bits. I'm not going to name any names, but they just a bit of a mess. Yeah,
there was a couple of people that didn't do themselves any favours.
And but no, not really. No, it didn't impact on any of my games.
No, that's good. Okay, so I suppose we should mention the painting. We sort of touched on it earlier, so let's look at the sort of the soft scores. The winners and the riders of the painting, where you had Scott Lyons from the Black Sun podcast with his Empire. Really nice. He took it out overall, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, I think he got first place. Yeah.
Then I think it was second was High Elf Army.
Yeah, the one in the ship.
I think it's Matt Peris's. I've seen that many years over the years in different sort of permutations of depending on what bits I think he's got with him. And then there's a Warriors Army, and the name of the gent escapes me, but it was really nice. I quite like that army. Yeah. So that was good. The only thing I suppose we should talk about briefly about the painting, we sort of touched on it earlier on, is and we spoke about it in our Saucy show as well, is I don't know how to say it really. I, as a just a player and observer, obviously with a slight vested interest because you're my mate and we do this, but I honestly felt that your army was the best army at the event. And you missed out on the top 3 places. You came 4th, didn't you?
Yeah.
And for me, that just felt wrong. If you've got the best army at the event and it doesn't walk away with a prize, and that's no disrespect to any other armies. I really like Scott's, for example. I thought he's been putting in the extra effort for a couple of years to get that there. So don't begrudge him or anybody in those top 3 a prize at all. But for me, your army might not be necessarily everyone's cup of tea, but for me, it was technically the best converted and the best painted and the best overall theme. And for me, for it not to get anywhere in the top 3 just because it was purely players' votes was my only real disappointment from the weekend in terms of the sort of the structure and the way the prizes were done, I suppose.
It's a really tricky one, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, it's players' votes, so it's completely their choice, and you can't knock them for that because it's their choice. It's complete freedom for them. I personally, I've always preferred judges purely because the judges will scrutinise the armies properly, like we do at South Coast GT, and we'll get down there and to the point where we'll almost have an argument about it. We get right down to the nitty gritty of things. It's a bit of a weird one. Don't get me wrong, I was gutted. I was gutted that I didn't get anything. I was up to 3:30 on Friday night trying to get the army finished because I'd had another warp lightning cannon that was all converted and some of it scratch built on. And it's kind of a weird one really, because I looked at the armies and I thought it's kind of weird actually, because the other 6 armies I nominated. I went round, they asked me to do the nominations, and I nominated the other 6 armies. And there was a bit of a discussion with a couple of the armies about whether they should get nominated or not. And then one of them won a prize. One of the ones that, I'm not going to mention which one, but one of the ones that there was a bit of a discussion about that ended up actually winning a prize. So it was kind of, it was a bit strange, really.
I think
it's strange. Really... I came away from the weekend I had a great weekend game wise. One of the best weekends I've had for a long time. Actually, I really, really enjoyed all my games and I loved using my list. And it was a bit flat at the end, But I can't really moan about it too much because it just sounds like sour grapes. So,
I think the main learning point for me as a tournament organizer, as you are, is I think it highlights the need for a judge's prize, because I think anybody that was looking technically at it would have seen the same. I would have hoped, and again, that really isn't disrespecting any other armies there, because but we've all seen it over the years where something's won in place of something else, and you think, oh, why was that? But that's the nature of players' votes. People vote for new things a lot of the time, which is the biggest thing, and also just things that.
Plus, my army's been around a while.
Yeah, exactly.
I am adding stuff to it. I mean, most tournaments I go to, I add at least one thing new, something new. And maybe some people just they've seen it too often.
Yeah,
maybe something simple like that.
That's for players' votes. I think that's why it's best. It's great to have both, because it does give something the opportunity to win, but something else to win if there is a consistently good painting. I mean, I remember years ago, ex Maelstrom Games owner Rob Lane used to go to most tournaments and just dominate, didn't he?
Yeah.
And they were finding excuses for him not to win, but ultimately he did win because it was the best painted army at most of the events. And for me, I've got no real issue with that. And judges and player votes, I think, give the players the power to then vote for something else to make a change.
Yeah.
But for me, if it's the best army at the event, it's the best army at the event. It's like saying to someone who's winning a lot of tournaments, I don't know, take Jack Armstrong for example, saying, "Sorry, Jack, we don't think it's fair. You've been around a long time. You keep winning. We're going to give the win to someone else." It just doesn't make any sense to me. So maybe it's a bad example, but that's the only way I can.
It is an awkward one because it's players' votes, and like I said before, it's completely their choice. So it's like you can't. You just take it on the chin because it's their choice, and absolutely, it's fair. That's how they want to vote. That's how they vote. I wasn't fourth because I was robbed. I was fourth because I didn't get the votes. Simple as that.
Yeah.
I think if it had been down to judges and I'd got fourth, I probably would have. I probably would have asked why, because I'd have been like, well, how did you come to that decision? And just talked to the but it wasn't. That wasn't the situation at all. It was just.
I think that makes it worse.
Just one of those things,
You can't really go to the organiser and say, "Do you know why all these players didn't vote for me?"
Make them tell me.
Yeah, they can mention a couple of things they heard about. It's been around for a long time, or it's this, or it's that. Yeah. But ultimately, you're never going to know, are you? But so whilst, like you say, without making it sound like sour grapes, I think it just highlights the need to have both running, and that was my only real negative from the weekend, to be honest.
I mean, it did give me a slap in a positive way, because I thought even if the votes go my way, I'm going to walk away with a trophy. Normally I'm kind of like, I'm not expecting anything. I'm hoping, but I'm not expecting. And at Pompey, I was expecting. I just had it in my head that I was going to get, even if votes didn't go my way, I was getting out of third place or something like that, right? And obviously when I didn't, it was kind of like, that was really arrogant. Really arrogant on my part to actually just have the attitude to it that, like, oh yeah, I think mine's in the running. Well, not in the running, because I like to think I'm always in the running, but not to that level where I kind of think that's it, I'm going to win something. So it was the positive to take for it was kind of like, don't ever assume anything. Knuckle down, keep going, make it better. And just see what happens.
Do something new. There you go. But I think and that was my only real negative from the weekend. Apart from that, I really enjoyed it. I thought it required very little refereeing overall. There was no real.
Oh, it was really laid back weekend, wasn't it? It was easy. Everyone
behaved themselves.
Yep.
It ran roughly to time, and I don't know. I liked it. I seemed to have loads of time to talk to people and just sit around, which was great. And the other thing as well is in that time we actually met somebody who we met a gent while we were hanging around in the downtime who listens to our show but doesn't play Warhammer. Which the ETC, I met several people who play 40k and things who listen to our show but don't play Warhammer. It's just really bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of like the biggest compliment you could have, really. He said, most of the stuff he doesn't know what we're talking about, but he just listens to us when like he's painting, and it's kind of strange, isn't it? He really likes the show, but it's not anything. He's not into Warhammer.
No.
So yeah, it was it was a weird one, wasn't it? But nice, really, nice for him to say so, and he was really enthusiastic about it. And it was a really nice compliment, actually.
Yeah, so thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah,
that goes to everybody who thinks about coming up to us and talking to us. We always really, really appreciate it. And at the end of the day, I get around quite a lot of tournaments, so I get to speak to a lot of people. But where you do less, Wayne, I think it's even nicer for you because you don't get it as much. I suppose.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, like when you play a game and you assume that no one's heard of the show, and then invariably they have, and then you play someone and you think, oh, they probably listen to the show, but they, like when I played Greg Day in the first game, he had no idea. He'd never heard of it. He didn't know who I was. He didn't have a clue. I didn't even mention it. It never came up. But it was obviously he didn't have because he hardly went to tournaments. And he just he didn't know who I was. He didn't have a show. Didn't know anything.
Yeah,
and it was I quite liked that actually. It was quite refreshing actually. Yeah,
good. But yeah, that was just a little thing I thought of actually, and that's great that we have people like that. And it's not the first time I've heard it, so. That's good.
At least you haven't got anyone approaching you in toilets anymore, eh?
No, although that was always good fun. But yeah. Okay, so moving on. I haven't really got anything more to say about the event other than we had a cracking time. So thanks for our club for putting it on. It was good just to be able to turn up and play.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of an issue on Twitter afterwards about whether the painting score should have been applied more harshly. I mean, what's your view on that, Wayne? As it was a kind of a rant of the week.
Well, Dan did come over and speak to us about it, didn't he? And it was there was a mixed opinion about what should be done, and it was kind of like, you've got to be really to the letter and very, very harsh, or kind of be a bit lenient and let a few things slide. And he took the latter option, and he's not wrong for doing so. He's a tournament organizer at the end of the day. It was his call, but it's one of those things. If he'd have been really, really harsh, there would have been a load of people unhappy. If he wasn't harsh the way he was, there still would have been people unhappy. I did think it was funny that some of the people moaning weren't even there.
No, I was disappointed with that actually.
Yeah, people moaning that had nothing to do with the tournament, didn't play in it, and had something to say about it. And I just thought, well, wind your neck in.
Yeah, I think it rubbed Dan slightly up the wrong way as he's just put on a weekend's war game, and he had people putting him under a bit of pressure about that. And I think that the key is, and the reason in their defence, I suppose, it's been such a big thing for such a time, hasn't it? The painting scores, should they be in tournaments? How much should they reflect the scores? What's the point in having them? All that kind of stuff.
Well, Matt Seal, he got me a good one, didn't he? He was in the canteen. And he made some flipping comment about it. He said, well, paint's just a side thing, it's not really important. And I just lost it. I went off on one. I was like, you're having I just proper went into a rant at him. It was funny.
You did look actually quite serious about that as well.
I was.
I mean, for those who don't know Matt, they've probably seen him on Twitter. He loves to just throw comments out and try and get people
about painting it,
fish and try and get people to bite. But he got you biting big time.
Yeah, he did. He got with that one. I went on I had a proper rant at him.
It's just a side thing, isn't it? It was brilliant. So that was good. But so that was the only negative comment I saw really, and that was by people that weren't there. So it was a bit odd, but it is a big topic, and I'm sure it is in whatever scene you're in. I see it all the time on Twitter and Warhammer forums. People talking about how much should it matter, and ultimately, I think it should matter. And that's.
I think the best thing to do, it should be really crystal clear in the rule pack, and then. If it's really crystal clear in the rule pack, the tournament organisers should stick to it by the letter and not give any leniency on it in any way, because if it's because you'll get guys that will read the rule pack and they will take it to the letter and they'll put all the effort in and they'll get it just right, and then for someone to maybe be sort of treated differently, kind of. It lets it down. I'm not saying Dan did that. I'm just talking about in general.
No, and I think, in fairness, part of the point was when we were looking through it, we have a very grey scoring system for the South Coast. It's sort of 3 stages, and really it's up to you and Russ when you go around to decide where that is.
Yeah.
And I think we knew what the intention was because we wrote it, where it was, if you look at it from an outsider's perspective, it's quite hard to picture, well, are you this or are you that?
Yeah.
And Dan obviously approached us and a few other people when asked, and the general consensus was the people there didn't really care. And because of the it being such a big issue, I was of the opinion that I'd just rather it was dealt with on the table in this particular case. The last thing, and actually it worked out the opposite. People were still moaning about it, even though it was left to the action on the table, which I find really bizarre, considering there's so many people campaigning for so long about that. It shouldn't be a factor. There should be tournament legal and have your trophies for the painters and leave the scores out.
I think in general, like tournament players can be very fickle, can't they? We all can know. It's like, it doesn't. You'll never get it right.
No.
And also, you've got those group of people that, regardless of how good or how smooth a tournament went, or how much fun it was, or how laid back it was, they'll always pick. There'll always be something that they're not happy with, and there's something they got to get on about. So, I think the tournament organiser, being TOs ourselves, to some extent, you're never going to make everyone happy.
No. And I think as well, the UK tournament scene's going from strength to strength. People demand certain things, and there's a bit of player power that goes on. And sometimes TOs, I think, just need to be like, look, I don't care. We're doing it this way because I say it. We're doing it this way. It's for the benefit and the enjoyment of everybody. And that's all Dan did, I think, in this case. Yeah. Benefit and enjoyment of everybody, because it was that kind of event, and that was the atmosphere that was at the event. I was more than happy to lose. Effectively, I lost first place on those paint scores.
Down to you're the only one it really affected.
And I didn't mind. And it actually came out of my mouth. If he beats me on painting scores, I'm okay with that. Because, he didn't beat me on this is it. He didn't beat me on painting scores. He beat me on the gaming table by a point. And if I'd won, it would have been by default, wouldn't it? That small point. So, obviously I came second, which was a solid result. But, and a little part of me was disappointed not to win, but not through getting it on default, was through the
not
actual
for a
game
technicality. You want to win just straight win.
Exactly. It was about missed opportunities on the gaming tables, which is what it should be about.
Yeah, because you had the chance, didn't you, to beat beat Ben, and it kind of just didn't come off, did it?
Yeah, I felt I had a bit of rough luck against Ben on that one, and then in the last game, I think I didn't risk enough to really take the tournament. So that's just the way, that's the decisions I took and how it came out. But ultimately, you can never be too disappointed when you come home with a little tin pot to put in your cabinet. So overall, I think we should probably leave the Pompey Pillage there. But congrats to everybody who played. It really was a player achievement, wasn't it? It was a good weekend, and everybody made it such. There was no issues, there was no gaminess, no reports of people having a tense game. It was just nice and laid back, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Nice chilled South Coast event. So there we go. So thanks very much, Dan. And that is our Pompey Pillage coverage.
Lately, things haven't been working out, have they? I mean, you must have noticed it. I mean, there was a time when me and you were wonderful together. We really were, but things are different now. It just doesn't seem to be the spark they used to be. And I think it's time we had a change, and maybe went our separate ways. And I've decided to collect Empire.
Yo.
Hello,
everybody. And so we've got a special guest with us today. He's been on the show before in various different guises. The man himself, the legend, Ben Curry. How's it going?
Welcome to the Bad Dice Daily.
We need that.
A nice touch.
Yeah. What's it?
I have to get it in there with the yo.
Yeah. What's the? How does it go? The theme tune is from bits with bite. Yeah, that's the bit that always sticks in my head afterwards. So, welcome to the show, mate. I know you've been on it before, but we got you here today to talk a little bit about a certain tournament you're running. That's called Blood and Glory. We've mentioned it several times on the show.
A little one. I mean, I can see why you've got no hair, Dan. To be honest, running tournaments. It is pulling my hair out, all the planning with it.
So how's it going? I mean, tell us a little bit about, first off, what made you decide to run a tournament, first off?
I don't know. I don't like to say I've been to everyone else's and thought I could do a better job, but that's kind of what it is. You run your own, you go to everyone else's tournaments, and no matter how good those events are, you think, well, I can pinch some ideas from here and pinch some ideas from there. I can run an awesome event myself, and that was kind of the thing, I've run the Masters and we did the odd one day here and there, but we've never really had a bad dice tournament. And I think it's something that I'm quite surprised it hasn't been brought up before, and people haven't been asking why we don't do one, because I kind of think it should be expected, but we've never just got around to doing it.
Good. And it seemed to be quite a good success. I mean, both of us are coming to playing it. There's a lot of things that are unusual to the English Warhammer scene currently. They were very prevalent, say 13 years ago probably, but they haven't been since. I mean, tell us a bit about why did you decide to move away from the kind of, you've got more of a focus on the hobby as a whole, I guess, and scenarios and things we don't normally play. Why that focus?
Well, I think it's the fact that I'm not trying to say everyone has to paint their armies, everyone has to do this, and everyone has to do that. Because I don't, I'm not that type of player. I'm more of the gamer type. But I just wanted to bring something else different to the scene because it's kind of getting a little bit stale, in my opinion. There's a lot of great events out there, a hell of a lot of great events, but they are a little bit rinse and repeat. Even when they change the rules pack slightly, there's a lot that are very close to each other. And, no fault of the tournament organisers, and they all do an awesome job. Some of my favourite events out there have been identical events to each other. But I just thought, there's a chance to have a real go at bringing something entirely different in. And, people like yourselves who have been on the tournament scene a long time, it is sort of harking back to the days when I first got into the scene, and that was kind of the way things were done. So we've sort of wound the clocks back a bit and just put a different approach out there.
Ben, did you find that going out to Adepticon kind of opened your eyes a bit?
Yeah, it kind of did. I don't know. In a way, there's a lot I didn't like about Adepticon, but there's also a lot that I really liked about it. And even some of the stuff, it's no secret I got hammered on sports when I went out there. And I kind of think it was my own fault for being in our UK bubble of, Ultimate Gaming. I mean, Dan saw the emails that I was sending around. What's the best list I can take? Which one will get me the most battle points? And, no one at any point sat down and says, look, those lists in America will get you, you won't do very well overall. In
Should have said it to me, mate. I'd have told you.
Well, yeah, that's it.
That's a fair
that's
comment.
The thing I didn't know.
I mean, we all looked at it. There's quite a few of us, weren't there? And we were all sort of, take this. It's amazing. It's bent. It'll be really good. But no one
they don't play like that out there, mate.
Yeah, no one considered.
They do play. They don't. There's decent players out there that play properly, but they just got a completely different attitude to it. Completely different.
It. That's it.
It's they do. I'd have to say, it was 10 years ago since I've been out there, but they do embrace the hobby as a whole, and it's great. But we don't really do that anymore. You're either a painter or a gamer, and there's no in between. There's no real kind of great. There's no kind of meeting ground in the middle, which hopefully Blood and Glory will be. It will kind of bring it all together. Yeah,
I hope so. There's some things that we're trying to do. I know the one that's really got Dan's knickers in a twist is the whole 1 point per game based on your opponent's approach to the rules and the game in general.
Very, very subjective.
Did your opponent conga? And it's like, my opponent congas against me and I'm fine. I don't mind that at all, so I won't mark him down. But
no, I'm the same.
The next guy might hate it, and it's very subjective, and no one can put the finger on, I think, which way it'll go as to, how many people will get points for that and how many people won't. I don't know myself. It might turn out it's a big flop, but I wanted to give it a go.
Well, again, it was something that we were used to years ago. It's not unusual. It's just odd to go back to it. And I certainly, when I'm thinking about what army I'm taking, it very much from taking on board your experiences, really, of how that worked with you in the States. You took quite an avoidance army that's quite normally seen in the UK, and obviously people felt it needed to not mark you down, but not give you the bonuses that most people seem to have gave everybody else. So with that in mind, I'm thinking, do I even want to? I'm very much thinking of taking vampires, and I'm thinking, is it worth the point a game to bother about congas?
But then surely that's the whole point of it.
Maybe.
If it's making you think that way, then it's working.
Maybe, or maybe not.
One of the things I took back from, particularly with my Dark Elf list, was if I'd had one more combat unit in it, I could have probably played the same avoidance game I needed to against some of the lists out there. But against the players that I knew wouldn't want to play that style of game, I could have gone a bit more combat aggressive, and I'd probably still got the wins, and I think I might have done a bit better on the odd sportsmanship. And I think just that bit of thought into the list and that slightly different approach, it might, we've all seen the armies, we all know what they're all like. It is very cookie cutter at the moment in the UK, and that's not a problem. I like that. That's right up my street, but I'm hoping it'll bring some variety to the list too.
No, I could see that. So overall, you've gone for no comp, and was that along the similar lines? It was just for variety purposes, or was there another sort of motivation behind that?
I really like no comp. I think a lot of the comp things that are comped because of comp, if you know what I mean. You comp the number of war machines you can have, and if everyone's allowed free reign on the 6 dice dwellers and all that, they take war machines out automatically. Big Purple Suns do that. War machines might not be the combos to go for if there's all those big spells to kill them. And again, big hordes all in the units. You got to put a points cap on units. The big spells tend to get rid of that, but you comp those big spells and all the characters go in those units, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of comp this and you're going to need to comp that. And I kind of think stepping away from it and no comp at all, again, it's variety. It's no one else is doing it, or I think the people that do it advertise it wrong. I think they advertise it as no hold barred, for example. Will puts it out there as come, bring the filth, go as ridiculous as you can and try and play no comp. Whereas you don't need to advertise it like that. It's just another tournament. It's just another rule set. Just bring your normal armies and play normal Warhammer and see how you go.
I mean, at certain points back in the day, as it's always in this kind of age that people refer to as being something amazing, which it wasn't. It was just another moment in time, really. But back in, say, late 90s, start of 2000s, you pretty much could take what you wanted at a lot of tournaments, but you had a comp score related to it. So, and there was a bit of peer pressure. You don't want to be that guy. I think with the media, the Warhammer media as it is, and the internet and everything, that's probably less and less. It seems to be a bit more acceptable now to take the full-on filth. And as you say, some tournament organisers seem to be actively encouraging it. So, it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I like no comp. I'll play under most things. I mean, both you and I have just come back from the ETC, and that's a very different game to playing no comp Warhammer. It's been odd for me playing the practice games afterwards, doing things like, hold on, I can 6 dice things, I can see things, there's no hiding behind buildings, this is amazing. A lot of these kind of things, so I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I've been saying for a while that I have been keen to be playing some no comp Warhammer, so it should be good.
I do find the whole ETC thing, that considering it's a test of what is supposedly the best players on the Warhammer scene, and yet it's comped. That kind of just doesn't. That doesn't add up. That doesn't make any sense. If they're the very best players at what they do, supposedly, why do you need comp?
Well, the argument is that it's not tactical enough, and therefore we're playing out the book. Yeah, people always cite dwellers. They go, what's so tactically skillful about dwellers? And the problem is, in a team tournament, they've kind of got a point in a way, because I think people would sit in a corner and dwellers people. I certainly would.
Yeah, but don't they do that anyway?
I think one of the things you've got to bear in mind is when you do go no comp. A lot of the time you can have a perfectly fine game, and no matter what the two players bring, it's reasonably balanced. But there are some really bad polar opposites when it comes to no comp, and in a team environment, there's a very good chance that you'll get a couple of them, or particularly if you've got a certain style of army, you might end up with a lot of them, and they're trying to avoid someone traveling all this way, maybe from America, Australia, or wherever, all these miles, and having to be forced into a complete non-game in every matchup. And it's still, you can still get that in the current system, but I think it goes some way to minimising that quite a bit.
I was just saying, in a team in ETC, don't you kind of get that anyway, don't you? Where you always have like 2 players that are basically taking a hit for the team every round.
Ideally, you wouldn't, but that tends to be how it
does
out.
tend to happen, doesn't it?
Yeah. But they're not non-games through. They still do non-games through matchups, but they're not as like in a no comp. If someone could take, for example, ridiculous amounts of ethereals or something, you could potentially get them into a really good matchup. I mean, you can take quite a lot under ETC comp, but it's not ridiculous, and you can't take other things you could probably take with it. And it does stop it being so bad that it's a complete washover. So
the thing is, like, just this last point I'm going to make about ETC. But
we'll have it on another show, maybe.
It's a bit strange that, say, like you had 2 teams playing football and they both decided to stay in their own half, leave the ball on the centre circle and go,
talking about Chelsea,
do you know what, let's just let the clock run down and we'll have a 0-0. Yeah? That's effectively what some players do in ETC.
You've seen Italian football, right? This is what they do. Yeah.
No, they at least have one striker, just on the halfway line. And, but it's kind of like, you'd imagine some sort of ref walking around and going, come on, guys, and forcing them to play. Yeah. Because you do get a lot of this, listening to, reading on Twitter and stuff like that, where there's a lot of games where basically 2 guys set up and they just go, you'll go, my go, you'll go, my go. Well, that's it, 10-0.
That's so, actually, I think, I don't know, you'll probably agree with me, Ben, but I actually think that's a lot rarer than it's made to sound. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think the times it happens, it's talked about a lot. So it's, I remember some dude doing a scorpion kick in one of the World Cups or something, and it was talked about every week, but it only happened once. It's
that was Colombia, wasn't it? Colombian goalkeeper.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, I'm sure we can talk to Ben's ear off about ETC. But
it's just a point, because you guys you love it. You've been out there loads of times, and you think it's great. To be fair, I've never been out there, so if I went out there, I'd probably change my mind completely. I probably would. It would open my eyes to it and go, do you know what? Actually, this is great. But seeing it from the outside, it doesn't seem that way. But it's
No.
just opinion at the end of the day.
But yeah, I think it's just another thing that you accept. There's a comp system in place, the same as if you go to another tournament in the UK and they've got a particular comp system. You just sort of get on with it. But yeah, I still prefer to play with proper line of sight and a lot more of the rulebook stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to Blood and Glory.
Blood and Glory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Okay, so tell me a bit about the scenarios then, Ben. You've gone for, it's not something that in the UK we've been doing for a while, and they're in the main rulebook. So what was your thinking behind the scenarios? Why scenarios?
So I always used to really enjoy the Games Workshop Throne of Skulls back when it was like a proper tournament. It wasn't the kind of hobby weekend they have now. And the scenarios, the games were won and lost on the scenario. And what you'd often find is people using their level 4 as a diverter, or the dragon was going and, standing in the way of big units that can get flank charges on it, because it didn't matter. And what mattered was achieving your battlefield objectives. And again, it's another thing which we don't see. We see the rule book scenarios, and occasionally we see a few tournaments doing a few other scenarios, but we don't really see any just scenario-based games. And again, I want something different, something out of the ordinary, not run-of-the-mill, and something I really enjoy as well.
I think that's the prime reason everyone, we'd hope, goes to tournaments to enjoy themselves. So it makes sense. Now, you've taken the decision to not publish those scenarios beforehand. What was the reasoning behind that?
A couple of reasons, really. And we put the event up in, I think it was May. We said we was going to be running the event. It might have been June. And at that time, if I'd have published all the scenarios, there'd have been no thought gone into them. They'd have had to have been published at that point. So that's one reason. The second one is if I did publish the scenarios, and even if they were the most balanced and play-tested scenarios ever written, they would have still had 3 or 4 months worth of people trying to break them and exploit every tiny loophole in them. And, if there was something slightly amiss, it could really skew the power level in the direction of one army. Whereas now, people, the fear of the unknown, they've got to design a more balanced list, which have got to be balanced in the fact that anything could happen. They don't know what to expect, so they've got to take it that anything could happen, and they've got to be ready for it.
Yeah. Okay. What would you say to the counter argument that it causes a problem in terms of lack of preparation, or you can't prepare tactically for it because you don't know, or I know I've heard people, when I've been discussing this with them, people have concerns over maybe the extra time taken to read the scenarios before the game and all that. I mean, how are you dealing with that?
Well, I'm dealing with that I'm going to be publishing the scenarios a week before the event anyway.
Oh, excellent.
So people will have a week to, read the scenarios, which they won't do, learn the rules for them, which they won't do,
No.
and, save any learning time on the day, which won't generally happen for 99% of the attendance. But, they will be out there so people can have a look. And I understand the control freaks out there. Me, myself, I'd probably want to know what I was up against going into an event. But I kind of think, give something different a try, give it a go. And if people really hate it that much, it's vote with your feet at the end of the day. They don't have to come. I'm not forcing anyone to attend. So I'm hoping people will put the faith in the fact that it'll still be a good event, and we kind of know what we're doing. There's going to be nothing like crazy in the scenarios. It's not going to be any sort of Destruction Derby style gateway vortexes floating around the middle of the board. It's going to be stuff that you've seen before, nothing out of the ordinary. What I would say to people is make sure you bring Fortitude, because Fortitude is going to win you the games and lose you the games. So that's one thing you might need to bear in mind.
Yeah, sure. That's what we're saying to Wayne, as we'll probably chat about in a bit about, Wayne's been preparing his list, I've been preparing mine, and it's literally when we were getting a cup of tea a minute ago before recording this, we were chatting about the need for it. So, it does look interesting. As you say, it's something different. So, personally, I'd love to see the scenarios beforehand, but I'm also embracing the fact that I'm not going to, and hopefully we'll see how that goes. Now, you've got, as well as you've gone for kind of like a convention style event, haven't you? So you've got the main championships, as they're being called, on the weekend, and then you've got various additional events on the Friday, haven't you? So tell us a bit about those.
Yeah, definitely not side events. They're as important as the main one.
Can I ask you about that, though?
Because
in the rules pack, it says you get a point for taking part in any of the side events, and the word side event is used. So is that referring to those two additional events? It is it? Yeah, cool.
Yeah, the idea was there's not just going to be the There's the Warhammer 500, which we've talked about on the show in the past. There's a 1,200 point event as well. They're both running on the Friday. Saturday evening, we've got a Warhammer skirmish event. I was hoping to be running War Machine over the weekend as well, including like a Mangled Metal on the Friday night. Don't know if that's going ahead at the moment. The guys that I had in to run that told me they'd do everything and then have done nothing, so that's kind of fell on its face a bit. We've got our games coming down. They're going to be putting on some demo tables. I think we've got X-Wing and a few others. So even things like that, just getting a demo of another game on Saturday will get you the point. And it's just kind of for people to get involved. And, if you don't want to, it's one tournament point and, hopefully it shouldn't have that much of an impact. But if you do want to take part in the weekend, join in all the different fun. There's going to be a pub quiz, I think, on the Saturday night as well. So that's even something, make a pub quiz team and you're going to get a point for joining the pub quiz team. And, there's plenty of things to do and hopefully people embrace that.
No, it's good. I mean, we're both doing the 1,200, aren't we, Wayne?
Yeah.
That's the intention. So that'd be quite good. I'm looking forward to playing some smaller point games. And that's using the full rules pack of the main event, isn't it? It's just kind of like another practice. Yeah,
so it's similar sort of stuff. There's scenarios. Again, there's the I think it's hidden scenarios on that one again, is it? In the 1,200s, I can't remember for sure on that one.
Yeah, there's certainly nothing in the rules pack about it.
Yeah.
So.
And I think Mark's doing the same on the 500 one, but that's all his baby. So he's the man to speak to about that one. That's Mark Wildman. So yeah, a bit of practice with some aspects of your list, or you can go down a different route and take a different army entirely. You're not tied in. They're not tied to each other, so you're not forced to bring one.
That's something I really like about that. The fact that you can enter all the additional tournaments. And you can take a different army for everyone.
Because we were considering doing that, weren't we?
Yeah,
because there's paint trophies in all of them that you've put on as well. So we were thinking, we can take this one for this one and this for this. And I could probably paint 500 for this. So
yeah,
I like it.
Well, it's a good incentive. If you're a painter and you've got multiple armies, it's great.
You could pick up a full horde just by turning up with all the different bits. So.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, you could.
Yeah, one of the things we really want to do was we stole from you guys, to be honest. You guys have always put on the judge's choice for best painted and then the player voted as well. So we went down the same route. We had a top three in judge's choice. That'll be judged by the organizer team. And then there's going to be a player's vote as well, which we're calling best appearance. That's stole the title from Adepticon. They call it a best appearance out in the States. And that's going to be, you don't necessarily have to vote for the best technically painted thing. Vote for the one you like. But the judges, we will be looking at what is best painted. So, you could have that big display board, but we're going to get down, we're going to look at the models, and we're going to be looking for the best painting technically in that award.
Which is good. I mean, literally, the listeners will have just heard us discussing this on the Pompey Pillage and our thoughts from that particular event and how we felt that it really, really lost something from not having the judge's choice, because unfortunately players do vote for the sparkly, and sometimes that's not you don't get. I think you need the reward for both. You need something that really captures people's imagination and gets them voting, and you also need a reward for the guy that sat there for hours and has technically, everyone knows it's the best army, but they may have seen it before, or they just liked the effort someone had put in and a certain aspect. And I like the balance of the two, so I think you're right to do it. Seems to work for us for the South Coast, and I think it's missed when you don't do it.
Yeah, and it's one of the things, we've had a bit of criticism with ticket price and, which is 32 quid a ticket. We're not providing food and things like that, but we are, extra prizes for these, a lot of awards. A lot of places give one painting award, whereas, we're going 6 per system. So it's, it's just a bit extra on top, which hopefully should add to the enjoyment of the event for people.
No, we're certainly looking forward to it. So, we've been doing a bit of prep this couple of weeks of what we're taking. So Wayne, do you want to tell Ben about what your grand scheme plans are for your list?
Yeah, I was going to take a pure clan Moulder army, and then Dan was just in my
banners.
Yeah, about the banners. Yeah, he was just saying, you've got to take Fortitude. And I was like, yeah, but I can't get any in if I take a pure clan Moulder. And he's like, well, just don't do it. I was like, oh, okay. Because I was going to take the kind of Throt, Skrill, loads of Rat Ogres, double A bomb, giant rats, and that was going to be Arnie. But obviously, if with the Fortitude being such a big deal, it's going to cost me massively. So in the end, I went for 11 Rat Ogres with a Lord on a Bone Breaker with a Fell Blade. That's got Skrill in the unit as well. So that's kind of my big buffed, depending on what Skrill rolls for the. We were talking actually before we come back on air to where does Skrill go? Because in the actual the Gumph, it kind of describes him as a master molder, but in the actual rules bit, it describes him as a pack master. So I was kind of like,
Okay.
I want to know where he goes exactly. So obviously, I'm not diddling my opponents.
Yeah, we haven't looked it up yet, but because my instant thought was, he's a character, so it's a front rank, but in front rank of a unit where he base size doesn't fit, it seems slightly odd.
I just want to get it right,
Packmaster go in the back, I think, but I don't. Yeah, you'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, neither of us knew. I was like, we'll read it in a minute. So yeah, good podcasting this. So we'll figure that out in a sec.
But
I'm
I'm going to take like a unit of clan rats with a grey Syrian, and I've got a unit of 36 storm vermin with a razor banner, and I'm the 225s of slaves like I used at the Pompey Pillage, because I found the smaller units of those allows you to they don't last very long, so it allows you to kind of counter punch, which is how I want to play the army. I want to get stuck in, and if it all gets killed, it gets killed. But I want to have those proactive games. I've still got the double cannon in, which I use at the Pillage, because I think the problem is if I don't take the double cannon and one misfires, and it does start to go wrong, I'm on the back foot massively. So it creates a bit of balance for the list. Because originally I had two level 2. I had a level 2 warlock and a level 2 plague priest, but I've swapped those out, put the grey serum, which is cheaper, and that's freed a few more points to do other stuff. Still got the 2 big units of giant rats in there, which I love. No one ever uses them, but I love them. I just the speed of them and the master molders and that. I always get my money's worth out of them.
They do a lot of attacks, don't they?
Yeah, I just think they're great. As long as you kind of pick what you're fighting against and just don't chuck them away. I mean, at the Pompey Pillage, they held up a unit of Demigris for 3 turns. So
how big are you running them?
25 rats, 4 pack masters, and a master molder, so 30 models.
And you just run them 5 wide, or
5 wide, 5 wide, 6 deep. So
So we've been talking about this off air and during the show. The listeners will have heard it before. It'll be on before this. But where I think the meta's changed into a point where actually infantry units seem to be. I certainly found it at the Pillage. My 20 halberdiers was infinitely better than my 40 because they're more disposable and fulfilled a similar role. And Wayne took 25 slaves, and you found them better as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I found them great because I found sometimes with the 40s, it's okay if you're playing an army that you just want to sit and the units behind the slaves don't really want to get involved at any point. But where I kind of play more aggressively, I find the 40s actually are too big and kind of can actually cost you the game because sometimes you don't get the opportunity to counter when you want to. Whereas with the smaller units, you get more of an opportunity to actually.
Or they pop in your opponent's turn, which is bad. So because he gets the free reform to face you. So I don't know. I think it's a bit of a changing game. I'm looking forward to seeing how this ends up panning out this edition.
With the slaves, if you're not in a normal list, obviously not the one Wayne's talking about, but in a normal list, you'd take 3 units of 40.
Yeah.
Would you say 6 units of 20, or was that just overkill? Too many?
I just think that's kind of, I don't know, it depends on your style of play, isn't it? If you just want a massive screen in front of you in 2 waves
and shoot things
and stand back, then I suppose it'd be great, but it just doesn't suit my play style.
We were talking about this, I was talking about this with Wayne because I said, well, you could do it other ways. You could take 5 15-point warlocks, 3 to 5 rat darts, 3 units. You could do it. They'd never fight you. I was tempted. I got to say,
I'd love that list.
Yeah, I would as well. I don't
That's the Skaven I used to play.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be getting the extra point for not playing in an abusive way. But yeah, it's I don't know. That I think those options are open if you're playing an O comp, but it's not really Wayne's style, is it, Wayne?
Do you know what I'm really looking forward to, right? Is if the moment when that rat ogre unit goes right through someone's army, right, and then someone says my list is bent.
Just pull out your mobile recorder and go, hold on.
I played the Fellblade at ETC, and the guy killed his warlord on turn 4.
Yeah,
I was quite happy about that.
Yeah.
I did it Thursday night down a club. I rolled first 3 turns. I rolled 1. So he just died straight away. But the weekend at the Pillage, he didn't die at all. He stayed around the whole whole
nobody
time.
hit him when they had the opportunity, as the listeners have just heard. Yeah.
So it's just the way it goes, isn't it? Sometimes
you did kill 4 demigriffs in one go, which was quite good fun.
Oh, beautiful! Yeah. 4 hits, 4 and 4d6. Nice.
Well, there was one we talked about it a little, but there was one that was on 1 wound, and the Banner of the Under Empire killed him. The 2, right? Yeah, I know, great. That killed that, and then the Fellblade Lord, he went through 3 of them. But he got a couple of Hydras, a Dreadlord at the weekend. Level 4 alt chain. Yeah, he got quite a bit of stuff. It was well worth taking.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Good
it
to
was
hear.
good fun.
So how many points is this Rattiger unit? 11 of them, what are they?
440 points for the rat. Well, 455 because it's got a master bred in there as well. And then it's 455, 555 with Skrill. It's about 605, I think.
Nice.
And obviously then the Lord's 193. So you get basically you get that unit, you win the game. That's all there is.
Death starring it up with your Ratto because you feel for yeah.
So what about you then, Dan? Are you bringing the new Lizardmen?
I was tempted. The biggest, what I like about the tournament actually is also a hindrance to me particularly in this point. But I was thinking about it and I really like it. Is the painting scores? You guys have got a very comprehensive painting score sheet, and both of us are big fans of that. We've played under it many times over the years, and both enjoy. I don't enjoy painting, but I enjoy the result of painting, and it's a big thing for us. So I could bring the Lizardmen, but I've got to do quite a bit of work, and I'm under a lot of pressure at work at the moment in terms of spare time. So the way the new book's gone, I've been enjoying it. It would mean probably replacing all my skinks with javelins, which is quite a long job in itself. And then I've got to get a couple of the new bits in as well. So and then I need to really do something about the trays, need a few fillers, and that's quite a lot of work to do. And what we're looking at 2 weeks, something along those lines now. And I'm working next weekend, so it's not really viable. So what I'm probably going to do is take my vampires, which I always seem to dig out at some point after an ETC to see if I can learn to play them. I quite enjoy them. So I've got that. I've just been touching in front of me at the minute. I've got a couple of dog units I was quickly touching up. It's quite good because I've got two armies that are kind of the opposite end of the effort scale. I've got one which is my lizards, which are over the top in terms of time, but oddly my vampires, there is a distinctive difference between the two because one was done with dip and highlighting and quick methods, but oddly I think there won't be I wouldn't have thought there'd be a massive disparity in the scores I receive for both because it isn't your scoring system it is quite diverse, but it also is fairly simple if you put enough effort in. So I'm probably going to bring the vampires because it'll be good to play. I think it'd be strong, and I'll get similar points probably.
Nice, tooled up Blender Lord and all that.
Yeah, I think so. I'm in an RE and I've been playing a few practice games. I'm probably up 4 or 5 now on them. I've been mixing them with playing the practice games with the new lizards and trying to decide which one I really prefer. And yeah, at the minute I've been running the Black Knight bus, which isn't really in vogue at the minute, but I still think it's reasonable. So yeah, sort of probably Vampire Lord with a couple of Death Mages or something, and a little bus and some bits and pieces. But old school vampires are kind of that me and the Russ Veal have been running for a while, where you try and use your rares and a combination of it rather than having it necessarily all in the all-seeing bus. I mean, I've noticed a massive downgrade since the first time I put it back on the board. I had my head in the old book and I'm thinking, yeah, charge in there, kill it all, but without Drakenhof banners and blood drinkers and small dice raises and things, it's so much more fragile than it used to be. Big difference, but still quite fun, I think.
Yeah, I've always fancied vampires and just never got around to doing them. I've got an army, oddly enough. None of the sort of the current stuff that's good, but loads of ghouls, zombies, skellies. Never used them.
No, that was my thing. I mean, I pulled out my army and I looked at it and I thought, I'm going to have to paint all this new stuff. And it turns out I don't have to actually paint too much. I've got none of the new stuff, but like the bus list, I'm thinking I've got Terrorgeist on my desk at the minute. I'm going to paint. Again, it's a point of blood and glory in it for a centerpiece model. So there you go. Paint that up. And eventually I'll add some bits, but I haven't. It's surprising how transferable the old book was to this one. If you're not looking to build 16 crypt horrors, so it's pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. You just said display board. How are you guys? What are your guys' thoughts on that? Are you doing them for start?
Yeah, I'm doing one. I'm starting on mine Friday, so I've got literally two and a bit weeks to work on it. Yeah, I've sketched some ideas down, but obviously, you'll have to wait and see. But it'd be good to actually work on something because I haven't done a display board, I think, for about 10 years. Because I did one for, I think Ribble Rumble was the last time I did a display
ran
board.
10, 12 years ago.
Yeah, I did a display board there. But I'm really looking forward to doing it. It's just I'm not sure whether the units are going to sit on top of the display board or I'm actually going to countersink them so they slot into it. It's going to come down to time really, but if I do one that sits on top, then obviously I can use it again, because obviously if the list changes and the size of the movement trace changes and I've done it so it countersinks into the movement board to the display board, then it's kind of only good for that one tournament.
Sure.
So I've got to kind of look at that really.
I don't know if I'm going to do one or not. I think what I do like about your rules pack is it's not hard and fast in terms of these are the maximum amount of points, but you need to do it all to get the max points. You can kind of pick and choose a bit. And I have a feeling that my display board would be a little bit like a sheet of cornflake packet sprayed black with some gravel on it, right? That would be the kind of thing I'd end up producing. So I'm not sure that I'll have the time. I might do more and spend the time getting the extra point on the scenery.
I've got one of those battle foam display boards in my shed. Found it today.
Ooh, have you?
Yeah, you can put it together, and you could that would be big enough for your army, so you could decorate that.
That might be game on from extra point.
There you go.
So there you go.
Sort of, yeah. Is that the X board?
Yeah,
yeah,
it is,
I think it's the one you get in a little pack and it all clips together.
Yeah, that's spot on. That's
because I got it out. I was clearing my shed out today. I had a big clear out of Warhammer stuff, and I put it together. It's nowhere near big enough for my army, but I think it'll be big enough for Dan's.
Yeah, mine's not. Mine doesn't take up a lot of footprint at all. It's pretty small, hence the appeal. But yeah, again, though, it's just one of the benefits of the rules pack for me. You can pick and choose what you want. You want to do it all, but I don't. It's a little bit like when you play computer games and you want to do the achievements. You want to kind of do all the achievements, but ultimately, time depends on what ones you're going to achieve, I think. And if it's a case of spending an hour maybe on a bit more terrain and getting a point there, it might be more beneficial. I don't know, but yeah, if you've got an X board, that might be a game on there. Good.
Yeah.
So. What's your highlight so far? I mean, I know you haven't actually done the event, but what's your highlight from the pack? What's the thing you're most proud of in the out of what the pack you put together?
There's been some really good feedback on the painting scores, to be honest. Again, it wasn't my idea. I stole it from a few various places. Adepticon did it, and I've seen it somewhere else as well, where they've awarded, say, 25 or 30 points for painting, and they've capped it at around 20. So if you don't want to bring your display board, put a bit of extra effort into your bases, that sort of thing. And we've had some really good feedback from that. We've had a lot of criticisms about it as well. People saying they've looked at it once and they've gone, "Oh, I'm being forced to bring a display." But I'm really pleased with how it's panned out with that one. I do like how that's gone down so far. But the main highlight has obviously been the way that everyone's jumped on the event. We've not run one before. People have been scrambling to get tickets, and we tried to give something back to the Snake Eyes members by letting people who are Snake Eyes members get early dibs on the ticket, so to speak. And we had loads of people sign up for Snake Eyes just so they could buy the tickets early. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, there's been a few highlights, but those are the main two, I think.
Good. I mean, it does. As I say, we're looking forward to it just because it's got a completely different feel in terms of rules pack, and the fact that I'm not sure what to expect is kind of exciting me at the moment because we do get used to we do get kind of used to, as you say, it gets a little bit stale sometimes going to different events.
Is it just me and you, Dan, going up, or is there anyone else?
We've got the Ginger Mike. We've got Ed Sheeran, lookalike himself, Mike Burgess.
Mr. Burgess.
Yeah, he's travelling up with us, which would be good. Right. Again, it's
he's playing the 1200 as well. He's entered today.
Yeah, he's playing the 1200 with us, so we're looking forward to that. I think the 500. Myself and Wayne have played around with 500-point games, and although they're good for having a bit of a laugh, I'm not sure necessarily on the tournament format. So, as in whether I would enjoy it. Because when we've played, we had to self-comp, didn't we, to make it any sort of good game. Otherwise, it was stupid. I was running Skaven, and it was disgusting what you could get in there.
For 500,
yeah, for 500 points. But the 1200, the timings work well with us as well because we normally take the Friday off. It takes a long time to get up there, so we'd be able to have lunch, play the 1200, and then go and have dinner and chill with everyone.
I think it's about 1500 is my favourite format, always has been. So it's kind of as near to that as I'm going to get. So.
And I can get a Vampire Lord if I want to take Vamps. But again, I might bring two armies for it. So it depends what I can put together, but at the minute, both our thoughts, I suppose, have been on the main event, haven't they?
Yeah.
What we're going to run and see.
I was asking about if there's anyone going up with us because I'm thinking about the size of the display board, and obviously if there's three of us in the car, I'm going to have to...
Yeah, and you and me have got... Because at the minute, it'll be you in the front seats, Mike in the back, and then the other two will be... We've got the same size. When we get travel tournaments, we've got the same size magnetised storage boxes, but they're like 2 people long, aren't they? So we'll have the other 2 seats with ours stacked on top. We just have to get Mike to get the same box so he can put it on top as well.
Yeah.
But if we did an army for all 3, we'd have like a car full of armies, so probably not the best idea.
But got a roof rack.
Yeah, it'd be a struggle.
yeah, it would be. So no, the event sounds good. We're looking forward to it. And where can are there any tickets still available for this?
So the championships are all sold. I've had an amazing amount of people wanting refunds in the last week. I think Tickets went up, everyone got caught up in the hype and wanted to buy one, and then they actually realised, it's 2 weeks after Warlords, it's the week before Games Day. It's come around, and I think out of the original 80 that we sold, I think I've had about 20 refunds, and then we extended a bit, so we're around 96 now, I think. Excellent. But no, that's I think we sold out in that one, but you can still come down on the Friday, take part in the 1200, the 500 in the Friday evening, or the Saturday evening as well. There's a skirmish event, which has been really popular, to be honest. I wasn't expecting quite as many people as we've got. I think we've got 20 up for the 500. We've got about 18 in for the skirmish. The 1200, I was kind of expecting not so many because it's middle of the day on a Friday. But I think we've got about 10 for that as well. So we've had some great turnouts in them. And I really didn't know what to expect with those ones, but it's been fantastic.
No, I'm looking forward to it. And what about, you've also got some seminars and things. How have they gone down so far?
Yeah, so Mr. Johnson, talking about painting his armies, has gone down a storm. That's 20 places gone, all 20 places gone for that, pretty much straight away. Marcus, talking about Heresy, went not too bad. It sold quite well, but then we had 5 dropouts, and all 5 people who dropped out of the championships also were in for the Heresy. So Marcus has talked to about 5 people at the minute. So we're not sure if that one's going to be going ahead or not. So if people are interested in learning about the Horus Heresy, I think Marcus is going to be sort of having a beer in the bar and chatting to anyone who wants to listen at the bar rather than doing sort of
sounds
a
like the kind
seminar.
of thing he'd be up for, yeah.
Yeah, I think he'd be well up for that. And the other one is I'm going to be doing one on gaming, which has got a fairly decent following. And what I'm going to try and do is, give people some tips on, because looking at the people who have signed up for it, it's mainly newer players, I think, people who are attending the first event. So I'm going to give them some tips on the sort of things they can try and pull on the opponents. Nothing dodgy, but some nice tricks that they can pull out. And
I love this. He's running points. A kind of sort of, fluffy hobby weekend kind of,
how to not get your point.
And then he's going to give everyone a sort of heads up of how to be dirty.
Yeah, I'm going to show him the conga line tricks and all that.
Brilliant.
Yeah, show him the flying charge.
I might sit in on that one.
You probably need it.
That's what I look for. I'm not. You might joke about that, the conga line, that sort of thing, but it is that sort of thing I'm going to be doing. Not the dirty tricks, but the tricks that you can pull, and things like. Here's a good example. At the ETC last year, I played. It was the Danish warm up. Played against Rasmus from Team Denmark, and it was the Dark Elf mirror match. And he placed his Pegasus rider in a position he thought was safe, and then I managed to get a charge with some harpies on it. And you think 5 harpies against a Pegasus rider, I'm not going to have a chance. But then with a bit of a reform and a move, it got my BSB and general in range, and all of a sudden you've got charging harpies with 1 combat res and your leadership 10 with a reroll. That's something people might not see. So I'm going to sort of try and focus on them sort of things, I think.
Sounds good, actually. Yeah, sounds good. When you doing one on podcasting originally, or did it change to gaming?
Yeah, so the podcasting one's still on as well. I've got a few people up for that. I'm really looking forward to that one. That's kind of my self-indulgent one. I get to talk about my other hobby, which is podcasting, and we're going to be talking about. Everyone always asks, how'd you start? What's the easiest way to get into it? And so I'm going to take some of my equipment down, show them my portable recording gear, show them my iPhone recording gear as well, which I think will be quite popular. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. There's about half a dozen in with that at the moment, but I think less in that one might actually be better because people can actually have a hands-on with the equipment rather than just looking at it.
Yeah, I like it. And that sounds positive. That's really good. And like you say, you've got to be fairly flattered with being your first event, the support for that. So that's,
yeah, definitely. All I'm saying is I wish I could have another 100 people in there because, I think we'd have sold the tickets if we had the room, but it's finding a venue in Derby that we had the room, and we wanted to stay in Derby with it. That was one of the goals. We didn't want to be another event in Nottingham or Mansfield. We're from Derby, so we was looking for a venue there. Yeah,
I think it's a great idea to have it in your hometown. And it is tough to find venues in England that are reasonably priced that you can take a punt on, really. If you haven't got a solid following already, I know you've got the podcast as a vehicle to promote it, but generally it's still a bit of a financial risk, isn't it? And the venues aren't cheap. So
I still didn't know. We had a look at one venue. It seemed great. It was in a hotel in Derby, but they wanted £1,000 a day. So it's $3,000 just on venue costs. And if I could sell 150 tickets I probably wouldn't have batted an eyelid, but because I've never done an event before, I didn't know what the following would be like.
Yeah, it's a big risk, isn't it?
It was a big risk.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't know if I want to pay $3,000 on a venue.
No.
I'd rather pay less, have a smaller event and put more money into the prizes and things like that.
Well, we've seen, listeners might have seen it on Twitter, but there was a local event in the UK called Clash of Swords, which was done this weekend past. And that was a small event, although it was run at a gaming centre, which I think sometimes eases some of the main logistical worries. But the effort involved in that and the small touches, being a smaller field that he could achieve, just looked awesome.
The trophies were lovely, weren't
definitely.
they? The best in race trophies are fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I've just literally today I've been and finalised the final trophies, and we've got them coming. And you know, the nice trophies, they're nothing spectacular like Mo's were, but they still cost a small fortune when you're having them in that numbers. I think we've got 60 or 70 trophies that are going out, and you know, it all adds up. And
that's a lot of trophies.
It is, isn't it? But you guys know what it costs. You run your own events, and you do the same. You give away a lot.
We're lucky. Dan knows a man that knows a man.
Always,
yeah. This boy's got his finger in so many pies. He has to take his shoes off.
Yeah, it's but you're right. It is an expense. So but I think that's it. Nobody really moans about prices and things as long as they're happy with what they're getting as a standard. So I'm looking forward to that. It's gonna be good, and you're pumped for it as well, Wayne.
I'm well pumped for it. I don't know. I'm just kind of I've got this sort of romantic view of it. It's going to be like it was 15 years ago. And then after the first game, I'm going to be like, oh no, rubbish.
We've got dwellers.
Same old.
I've got 9 rat ogres and a warlord.
Yeah. But I think all the time I'm feeling like this going into it, it's going to be great. And I'm really looking forward to both events, actually. I just, I feel after the weekend at the Pillage, I feel really, really pumped about playing. Which for me is kind of like, you know, I do enjoy playing, but I don't often feel really pumped after a tournament. That's quite unusual for me. So I'm trying to play, you know, like I got 2 games in last week.
Yeah, you sneaked around here, didn't you, for a quick game?
So literally within the space of like 7 days, I've had 7 games. So, you know, that's really unusual for me. So I'd like to go to a tournament for a change with, you know, a few games under my belt without a change list, and, you know, actually put some prep into it. You know, and then that way, when I do get battered again, I can just turn around and say, "Yeah, it was all down to me being rubbish. It wasn't that I didn't practice. I'm just rubbish."
No, there is something to be said for practice, though. So that's cool. So yeah, cheers for coming on, Ben, and talking to us about Blood and Glory. And as anybody wants to follow it, you've got a Twitter account, haven't you? Follow this?
Bad Dice _podcast. You know, you might have heard of the Daily Show that I do and all that.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah,
and definitely. The Blood and Glory's got a Twitter account as well. I'll follow that.
Yeah.
At Blood and Glory, isn't it?
At Blood and Glory UK.
Blood and Glory UK.
Oh, yeah,
Good
I saw
man.
that today. Yeah, look, see, we're all on it. We're all about the cross promotion on this show. So, there you go. In all honesty, check that out. And I'm sure everybody listens already knows, but if you don't, check out the Bad Dice podcast. It is a stalwart of the UK scene. And Ben is an insane person because he podcasts every single day, which is well worth listening to. You can pick and choose your topic. It's fantastic. I always have a listen, especially if you're into football. There was a recent one. By the time this goes out, it's not that recent, but it's a recent one where Ben was selecting his fantasy 11 from some people. So if you're a regular listening to UK podcasts, you'll find that interesting because you'll probably know the people that are talking about. Especially if you're a football fan, you can definitely appreciate it. So
a lot of fun that was.
Yeah, I can imagine. Cheers for that, Ben, and we'll speak to you again soon, I'm sure.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks so much, guys. Cheers.
Beady weedy wee.
Okay, Wayne. So let's get on with our beady weedy weeks. What have you been up to?
Oh, lots. Right. Done some commission work for Tom Hale. I'm just finishing the Warrior Army for him. So I did some stuff for him before, and I've just sent a load of stuff off for him again. I've still got some Striders to finish, Hell Striders to finish for him. So once they're done, I think that's it. Because I think he's on about selling it now. Actually, I think he needs a new computer or something. So he's on about selling his Warriors.
Don't do it. I've been there. But it's not worth it.
But the main thing I'm working on at the moment is the display board for Blood and Glory.
Oh yeah, which Twitter users will have seen the pictures.
Yeah, very very early stage. I've got it's 24 by 36 inches. And it's got the actual 4 inches at the back of it it comes away. I've got it in 2 parts. So there's like kind of like I'm building like a rock face, and in the centre of the rock face is a gate which I've got a scratch built out of plastic, and I'm going to put Skaven symbols all over it. So the ironwork on big like wooden gates, but all the ironwork on it's going to be Skaven symbols. And then when you actually come to like the main part of the board, what the army sits on, there's a huge Skaven triangle, the usual Skaven symbol, the triangular one, the upside down triangle. There's that, which is set in stone in the base, so all the grass and the foliage will go up to it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's right in front of the gates. But it's about 20 inches deep and about another 20 inches wide.
Mm-hmm.
The whole symbol, and then the units like fit in and around it, so you can see the symbol. So I've just finished carving all that out of plastic. I'm really pleased with that. The plaque on it for the actual name of the clan, which I decided to call it Clan Kemp. I've actually made that as well. I've actually made like Skaven writing and carved that into a piece that's going to go in. I'm going to maybe paint that so it's all like warp stone, so it really shows up. But I haven't built the gate yet. I've still got the gates to do. That's going to take ages.
Yeah, I suppose it took quite a long time, because of the amount of time it took to come up with your name. That you couldn't.
I was doing like sort of variations of Clan Moulder, and I was coming up with lots of different names, and then I just thought I'm just going to call Clan Kemp. Short and sweet.
Yeah, it works.
And also, it's another way of not putting your name. It's kind of like you're putting your name on it, but you're not putting your name on it. So it's my surname's there, so
people know.
Yeah, and also one of the Skaven symbols is on the side you've got the regular Skaven symbol, the triangular one, and then on the other gate there's a K, but it's like imagine like a line, and then how you would do a K, but they cross over each other. Like you sort of stabby marks like Skaven are. So I'm doing that so that's part of the symbol as well.
Oh, that's quite cool.
I've got to build all that yet. So I think the gates, I've sketched them all and worked out how they're going to go, and I think they're going to look really good, and quite pleased with the design of them.
Brilliant.
It's just a matter of whether it comes off.
Yeah.
Whether it looks the part when it's all together.
Well, you've got a few weeks to do it, so it's possible, isn't it? Very possible.
Yeah. I think I've actually got 10 days. I've got 10 days left. Well, as we're recording now, I've got 10 days left to do it all. So it's going to be a struggle. I think if I can finish building it within the next 4 days, I might just have enough time to paint it. Yeah. But I'm going to try. Obviously, going to go for all guns out to try and get it done, because I think it will. I'm getting quite excited about it, because you don't often get to do stuff like that, do you? So it's
one of the pulls of this tournament. Yeah,
and I keep adding ideas and what I want to do, and I'm thinking, well, slow down, because you add too much and you never get it finished.
No.
So I want to get the main idea, the bulk of it done, and then if I get time, I can add a little extra bits.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of putting some little holes in the walls of the stone face where I could put Giselle teams in and stuff like that, and maybe like a gutter running through the gaps. So there's a bit more. So they're not part of the army, but it's a bit more to look at on the board.
Sure.
It's a bit more interesting. But it's coming along really, really well. Really pleased with it so far.
And how are you doing on your scenery? Because you've got to take scenery, and there's points for scenery. Are you pretty sorted with that anyway?
Yeah, I'm thinking about with the scenery. That won't go on the. That's the thing, here. You're supposed to put the scenery on the display board.
No, you can display it with your army, but it doesn't have to be part of it. You just surround your display board, don't you?
Yeah, because I'm thinking about the scenery I've got. I'm thinking about just adding bits to it, like Skaven sort of graffiti and stuff like that. But that won't even be displayed with the army. No. But I want to go sort of full on with it all. So it's kind of like absolutely put the effort in, because you don't often get to go to tournaments like that where there's actually the opportunity to do.
Not
that
these
kind of
days,
stuff.
no,
not that. So I'm going to sort of do it properly. Just think, well, if I go to one of these this kind of tournament once a year, I want to do something full on and make it worth doing.
I still think we need to schedule a games workshop for the Skulls in, because you haven't been to the new format, and I think it's right up your street. So, and all that kind of stuff they love it. So, and ultimately, it's quite a good. It's probably quite a good prep, because once you got this done, it's there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you can add even more little bits and the details that do it. And then, especially the games workshop ones, you see a lot of people that don't go to these events that go. So it's a fresh audience, isn't it, for the army?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So I'm really, really, quite. I mean, literally, once we stop recording, when I go home, I'm going to carry on with it. So I've glued some of the Skaven symbol on the main board in place. I've finished carving the stonework out for the rest of the symbol today at work, and so I'm going to get that laid in, and then get the nameplate on, and then start planning out start building the gates. They're quite big as well, the gates, but I wanted them to look like the warp lightning cannons are quite big on the creatures, so I wanted it to look like they will go through the gates.
Sure.
Because I've seen sometimes when you see stuff and then like dioramas, and then there's like a creature on it, and you think, how did that get? I know it kind of seems over picky, but you think, well, there's a doorway there, and it's supposed to come through that doorway, but it's way too big. So what's going on there?
Far too much thought into this.
Well, no, because I want it to look right. I want it to look like if the gates are open, everything that's there can walk through it. Not in single file. It can sort of march through it. So that's the idea. So.
Good. Sounds good. I have been. I've picked up a paintbrush for the first time.
You have,
in several months. I've got I've just got my vampires back. I spent an evening when my wife was away on a rare evening somewhere. I forgot where she was. I think she was staying away with her friend for a night or something. And I sat and I magnetised my whole of my vampire army. It was already magnetised, but it wasn't magnetised to the box, oddly. So I sat there and redid that, and there was quite a bit that wasn't magnetised. So I did all that, got that already, playing a few games with that. For Blood and Glory, I've submitted my list and got that ready. So I had to paint some stuff. So I've got a Vampire Lord I converted ages ago. I've actually got more conversions in this army than I think I have in a lot of my armies, but they're just simple bits and bobs I did over the years. I mean, some of the bits in this army I actually had back in the 90s, I think, probably. And it's just been sitting in bits boxes, and then I've decided to bring it out again. So I've been back on the dip. We were talking about the merits of this off air. Back on the dip. And it is a different animal to using washes, but it's also got very good different. It's got a slightly different use, I think. Sometimes, like it's better on large areas than say splashing it all with Devil and Mud, or Agrek Surfshade as it is now. So that was good. Been playing around with that. And so at the moment, I've got my Vampire Lord who's been base coated, based, dipped, and I'm just waiting for him a couple of days to dry properly. I like to leave him a few days, and then I'm going to go over that. And next to us, I've got a Terrorgeist, which is Wayne commented has been sitting there for about 2 weeks, looking the same, built with no legs basically. So I've just got to finish that and build up the base, and that's going to be kind of my centerpiece.
It's almost like you're scared of it now. You've got so far with it, and it kind of worries you.
Yeah, it does. I always get this with big models. I'm not a big model person. I think that's why I like Skaven, because although you like the big models in the Skaven army, I like the 20mm infantry figures that are easy to do. But yeah, it's sitting there ready to go. And again, that's going to involve dip, but the thing with dip is it's just a tool, and if you can still spend the time on it, it will still look good. But it depends purely on how much time I'm going to get to do it. But
dip's got a bit of a sort of dirty word.
It always has.
It's a dirty phrase, but it's like any other thing that you use in painting. If you use it properly and neatly and spend a bit of time, it's as good as any other technique, because it's what you do afterwards that matters. And also the neatness of the paint job beforehand. I quite like with using dip where you pre-highlight stuff and then you use the dip. And it works really well. And you can churn out armies that actually don't look too bad at all. Quickly.
I mean, this is basically the way I'm going to paint this Terrorgeist, and you'll see it on my Dan's Den blog on the Saucy, and it's going to be chocolate brown spray, a pre-highlight, paint all the fins and all the detail, dip, and then I'll pick out with literally one sharp highlight all the major parts of it. All over, and that'll probably be it with a nice base in, and it'll be perfect. It'll be perfectly fine. It'll probably look all right. So, and that's really how the whole army's done. Although I have got mixed bits in of my vampire army where I started painting it properly. Actually, the majority of it is really sort of like either dipped and then one highlight, or washed and a couple of highlights, or it's very what I call basic painting. But when you see it all on the board, I think it's okay. The basing ties it together, and it looks fine.
I think if you see, considering you've played it down, it's like, it's just dipped. It looks good.
I'm happy enough, and I think if you look at actually, and that's a prime example. If you look at the Blood and Glory painting system, which is meant to be this really hardcore painting, it actually could score somewhere between 16 and 19 points, depending on how they view some of it. Some of it's a bit subjective, but it has got quite a few conversions in it. It has got high level of basing stuff and fillers, and there'll be a centerpiece model and all that kind of stuff that's in there. And there's nothing rocket science about it. It's just basic and put together. It's just got a little bit more attention given to it than some of the rubbish we're seeing these days on the scene where people really don't care. So it'd be interesting to see if how much of an impact this scoring system has on that. I have a feeling we're going to see some better standard armies. It'll be back, turn the clock back a bit. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's really what I've been playing. I'm still, as always, with the vampires. I do this thing. I seem to do it most years. Come back from ETC, go, I'm going to play vampires, and then I inevitably get bored of them and want to do something else. Or the ETC kicks in normally, and I have to go and play something else. But at the minute, I'm enjoying playing them. It's been they've been good fun. So and I love. There's just one rule I really love. Have you played the current book with the hunger rule? I don't think when we played actually in our practice game we got to use it. But if the vampire, you keep dice aside. So say like your vampire does 5 wounds, you keep 5 dice aside, and you roll at the end of the phase to see basically if he drinks the blood and regains a wound lost earlier in the battle. And I was playing Mike Burgess down the club the other day, and I'd taken a wound, and it's brilliant. It's like this whole thing, he just carves up this unit and then drinks the blood, gets his wound back. I love that rule. I think it's one of the best rules in the game. And I've spent a bit of time reading the vampire book again, and
do you remember that was really bent with the actual blood drinker?
The blood drinker sword. Yeah, I mean, we were joking about it.
Kill the unit. I don't kill the unit.
I'm using probably not, supposedly according to the internet, an optimal vampire list. It's not the infantry with crypt horrors. It's what I have, which is a cavalry list. I've always enjoyed using that sort of mix of cav, or even if it's just a mini cav unit, I've always liked having the cav in the army. That whole thing we've talked about before, where I find that good armies have lots of different charge ranges. It makes your opponent think a bit more. If they know everything is 16, it's a lot easier to dictate pace, like that's what dwarfs struggle, I think. So I always like that. And so yeah, I'm using this cav bus, but the first game I used it, and I've used it in 4 or 5 games now, and I've forgotten how much it's taken a hit in compared to how it used to be. When you're Drakenhof banners, the whole unit had 4 up regen, and the blood drinker, where every wound you did, you got a knight back, and you could lose it all, and then just charge a unit of 10 skinks and get all the knights back, and it's so annoying for your opponent, as you know.
Yeah, I played it a few times, didn't I? And it was just like that unit always finished on the same amount of models it started with.
I actually think that was the best Warhammer army, most powerful Warhammer army I've ever used, and I only got to use it for 4 months. I was too late to the party and gutted. I took it to 2 events. One, I won all my games by the one where Russ Veal mind raised me because I was silly, and I took it to a Throne of Skulls and won all my games and still didn't win the tournament because of this weird scoring system. But it was super good, and I just wish I'd had more time to play it. And that was when you could Van El's charge and all that kind of stuff. So really good. But I've really enjoyed it. And actually, again, having a read back of the book as you do, like when you swap armies, you tend to have a bit of a read, don't you, what you're doing?
Yeah.
I reread some of the fluff of the vampire book, and I still really like it. I like the whole of vampires I've played for as long as I've been playing Warhammer, the same as I have Lizardmen, and they're just an army that I really enjoy. So that's what I've been doing. So that's kind of my week. Apart from that and podcasting, we've got a saucy show coming up with Russ Veal, who has won tribute with his demons the weekend before last.
Yeah.
And it depends when you're listening to this. And then he's also come second at the Warlords GT just recently.
He's having a good run at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah, very good. And just proving his outright skill level, I think. It's an army he's basically had no practice with and turned up. I mean, they are very good, but he hasn't got the normal, what I call the optimal net list. He's gone a bit...
He always tries to do his own thing anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, Russ never kind of follows the pack, does he? He usually has them following his lists,
He's normally the net list writer.
Yeah,
so,
he is. Yeah, he's the man to follow.
So we've got him on the Saucy Show this week. So that'll be going out. I mean, by the time you've heard this, it's on the Saucy section. So make sure you check it out. So I think that's about it for the show, Wayne. So should we get out of here? And but before we do, I've got a couple of things I want to mention. The first one is, of course, our sponsor, oddgames.co.uk. Now, as we've said before, they're not currently stocking Warhammer stuff anymore. They've stopped selling Games Workshop for a period of time, but all your Magic the Gathering, trading cards, board games, brilliant prices on there. And currently, if you spend £35 or more, you can save an extra 5% with the code HeelanSEP. So that's HeelanSEP. And if you spend £35 or more, you'll save an extra 5%. So that's a great deal. Doesn't take long, does it, with a couple of board games to get over 35 quid?
No.
So why not go and do it? And they're great as they are. Couple of other bits I wanted to talk about. Steve Foote. You've met Steve Foote before,
Yep.
haven't we, at the South Coast? Really nice guy. He and his club, I think they're Oxfordshire based, are running a charity event, a marathon Warhammer event. Now, they've contacted us and asked to give them a bit of coverage, which we're more than glad to do. So it's October the 25th to the 27th, and it's called the Battle for Sophia. And it's an Oxfordshire-based wargaming club, and they're going to do a 48-hour massive endurance marathon of Warhammer. I think it's going to be a 12 by 4 foot table, with 50 pieces of terrain, 2,000 painted miniatures, massive points, and they're sort of doing I think they're doing tag teams so they can keep the game going.
That'd be awesome.
I have a feeling it's going to be there's a site you can find out more. It's www.sophiassteppingstones.co.uk, and you can donate at www.justgiving.com/Sophias-stepping-stones. So check those out. If you need any more details on that, please contact me and I'll be more than happy to point you in the right way. It's a very worthy cause. A young Whitney resident has a form of cerebral palsy and they're in need of a critical operation and months of post-op physio. And obviously these things cost a fortune. Anybody who is been unfortunate enough to know anybody going through this kind of stuff knows the kind of funds that are involved. In my job, you see people trying to extract these funds from companies and businesses to do this for people, and they're extremely expensive. So they need all the help they can get. We've provided a couple of Saucy memberships and stuff to help generate some people and some things that will help the whole fundraising thing. So get out there, and as a wargaming community, these kind of things I always think we need to try and support and help those people that are in the community. So check that out. Okay, I think that's about it. We've got tons of listener questions, bits and bobs, loads of stuff I want to cover, but ultimately this was a big show with our Portsmouth Pillage coverage, and also sneaking an interview with Ben Curry we had in the middle on the Blood and Glory event, which we've seemed to have done far too much talking about this thing, but it is a big event for us. We're looking forward to it, aren't we?
Yeah. He says as he knocks the mic with his hand.
We're professional here. Anyone can hear our professionalism when they listen to the outro of the show and they hear that little couple of second clip at the end. So yeah, that's it. I think we're going to get out of here. Remember, check out the Saucy section. As I say, there's going to be Russ Phil. By the time you hear this, will already be on there talking about his winning his podium with the New Demons. So if you're into the New Demons and you want to know all the tips and tricks and how he's found those, definitely check those shows out. And it helps support us massively. Which brings me on to the next point. I want to thank you, all of those people that have already donated to our Adepticon appeal.
Thanks, guys.
We're doing very, very well. We've still got a long way to go, but it's looking good. We just need all the help we can get. Currently, the most hotly contested thing is myself and Wayne's partnership in the Teams event. So if you would really like us to partner you in the Teams event, that's going for quite a few $100 at the moment. So if you're interested,
who knew, eh?
Yeah, who knew? For some reason, I'm demanding higher price than Wayne. I don't know why.
That would be down to you being a much worse player. No.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, keep those coming in, and we're massively thankful for all the donations, and I'm confident this can work and this can happen.
What they need to understand is, do they want to win their games or do they want to enjoy their games?
What are you on about? I'm all about the hobby. I'm all about the hobby. We know this.
Because if you want to enjoy your games, then
yeah,
I'm your man.
Wayne's your man. Yeah, Wayne's your man. And actually, he's, as I say, you can get him for a cheaper price at the moment. So I've
got a really good record in doubles.
He has. In fact, yeah, you've probably won more doubles events than I have. So there you go. So no, we've got some fantastic donations already on that, and I just want to thank everybody. But please keep them coming. And if you don't want to donate directly, help yourself whilst helping us, because we will use any gaps in the funding. We'll try to fund as much as we can, obviously from the normal show proceeds of Saucy sections of the things. So get yourself some content, get on there and help us out. And we're really looking forward to that. We've had so many people contact us, sort of just saying, "Oh, I've dropped you the small amount, but just want to know, I really hope you want to get there," and that we're not suddenly going to stop podcasting when we get out there. I know there's a few people who had some concern over another well-known, the godfather of Warhammer podcast. When they did it, they went out there and then stopped recording. We've had our break. We're here for some time.
We're here for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Hopefully, anyway.
And and loving Warhammer. So that's good. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Make sure, the other thing I want to talk about is we're doing quite well on the iTunes rankings, but we need your help. So if you subscribe to us, make sure you subscribe through iTunes. That helps. And also drop us some reviews. If you really like us, 5-star review takes 2 minutes to do and helps us move up the rankings, especially US guys. Big shout out for the US. We don't have that many reviews on the US site that have comments and things on in comparison to some of the other countries. So please get on there and give us some reviews. We'd be very, very very, very thankful for that. So thank you. And that's about it. Wayne, anything else?
No, I'm all done.
Good, we are done. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time. See you then.
Bye-bye.
Unless, of course, you're a Saucy member, in which case you can see us at any point.